Good morning. It is a solemn day in the tri-state. We are here to bring you the funeral and procession for Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson.
Deputy Henderson, a 33-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office and an ex-Marine, was run over while directing traffic near UC a week ago today.
Local 12's Megan Mongello is outside the Cintas Center, where thousands have been arriving all morning to pay their respects and support the Henderson family and the entire law enforcement community. Good morning, Megan. Just bring us up to speed. I know you have literally seen thousands of people pouring into the Cintas Center.
That is correct, Paula and Kyle. I've been out here with my photographer since about 7 this morning, and I can tell you we have seen streams of uniformed men and women arriving in vehicles. We wanted to give you the perspective from the parking lot just to give you the scope as to how large a service this is. As you can see, 500 vehicles representing 80 different departments. I am told that the service inside the Cintas Center is about to begin, so we'll take you there live.
All right, so you're looking live now at the service. We are seeing the casket being escorted in. And you can hear and also see the sheriff's pipe and drum corps and see everyone standing there at attention as that casket makes its way to the front of the Cintas Center as that service is about to begin in any moment now.
And we are going to be silent for much of this service, but we will also interject a few comments, and we are joined by two experts on set here who are going to help us, but we're going to just listen in for a minute.
Company, order, up! Ready, please. March. Vigilant, forward, march. Ready, examine. Order, up. Ready, post. Company, stand at ease. You may be seated.
Sheriff, Chief, Governor, Mayor, esteemed public officials, brothers and sisters in law enforcement, and fellow citizens. Thank you for being here today to honor and pay tribute to Hamilton County Deputy Sheriff Deputy Larry Henderson. Your presence is a powerful expression of support for this family, Lori, Larry, Alexandria, Taylor, Riley, Adriana, a testament to the impact Deputy Henderson had on all of us. Please join me in prayer. Eternal God, our refuge and strength, we come before you with heavy hearts, mourning the loss of Deputy Larry Henderson. Your word tells us in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Be near to us now. We thank you for Larry's life, his courage, and his service. As we grieve, we hold to your promise in Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Surround this family with your comfort. Grant peace to all who serve and protect. And may Larry rest in your eternal care. Amen. Ecclesiastes 3:1-11. In the original Hebrew, translated into English. Lakol zman ve'es l'chol chayfetz tachas hashamayim. Everything has an appointed season, and there's a time for every matter under the heaven. Eis ledes ve'es lamos, eis letas ve'es la'akor natua. Time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted. Eis lahareg ve'es lirfei, eis lirpreitz ve'es livnais. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break and a time to build. Eis libchais ve'es lischek, eis sapaid ve'es rakaid. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time of wailing and a time of dancing. Eis lahashlich avanim ve'eis kanais avanim, eis lechavek ve'eis lerchek mikhabek. A time to cast stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Eis levakesh ve'eis la'abed, eis lishmar ve'eis lahashlich. A time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Eis likreya ve'eis lispar, eis lechasheis ve'eis ledaber. A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak. Eis le'ahev ve'eis lishnei, eis le'milchama ve'eis shalom. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Ma Yisrael Eisa ba'asher hu amel. What profit has the one who works in that which he toils? Reisi esi inyan asher nasan elikim livnei ha'adam la'avneis bai. I have seen the occupation that God gave to the sons of men, which occupy themselves. Es hakol asa yafeh bi'itai, gam es ha'olam nasan belibam, mibli asher la yimtza ha'adam, es ha'ma'aseh asher asa Elohim mereish v'ad seif. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, the wisdom of the world he put into their hearts, save that man should not find the deed which God did from beginning to end. Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Rei Le'achsar B'nois Dash Yarbitzeni Almei Menuchas Yan Aleim Nafshi Yeshvei Yancheni B'magalei Tzedek L'man Shemai Gam Ki Elech B'geit Salmaves Le'ira Ra Ki Ata Yimadi Shiftecha Mishantecha Hema Yenachomuni Tarach Lefanai Shulchan Neged Zerari Deshantem Hashem Reishi Kaisi Revaya Ach Toiv V'chesi Yirdafuni Koye Mechayai V'shatu V'veis Adonai L'erech Yamim. A song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days.
A scripture from the Gospel of St. John. Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You have faith in God, have faith also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If there were not, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you also may be. Where I am going, you know the way. Thomas said to him, Master, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. From the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts, but I will show you still a more excellent way. If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away everything I own, and if I hand my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. Love is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interest. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. If there are prophecies, they will be brought to nothing. If tongues, they will cease. If knowledge, it will be brought to nothing. For we know partially, and we prophesy partially. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I used to talk as a child, think as a child, reason as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. At present, we see indistinctly as in a mirror, but then face to face. At present, I know partially. Then I shall know fully, as I am fully known. So faith, hope, love remain. These three, but the greatest of these is love.
On behalf of Deputy Larry Henderson, the family of Deputy Henderson, and the entire Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support from throughout the state of Ohio and our great nation. Here, we are united in grief as we reflect the life and service of Deputy Larry Henderson. Today, we are reminded that as we are called to service, we raise our hand, we swear the oath to walk the path of justice. And in our mirrored reflection, our family, our moms, our dads, our wives, our husbands, our children, they have their hands raised too, to acknowledge the sacrifice and support for what we have been called to do. And as we travel the road of justice, it climbs. It climbs to the most narrowed and steepest of trails. At times, our very lives hang in the balance. Yet each of us press on with courage to endure the most challenging of circumstances. Some making the ultimate sacrifice. It is then, in the darkest of times, that we must grab on to each other so as to not lose our way. And when the road clears and the path is wide, the weather calm, it is then that we rest. It is then that we mourn. It is then that we celebrate the times that we have joined hands, the times we have embraced, and the times that we have raised our glasses in salute of our love and friendship. It is now in the brotherhood and the sisterhood of our families that Deputy Larry Henderson is with us, and we are with him. Each of us knowing in our hearts that we will never walk alone.
Exactly 1 week ago today, on Friday, May 2nd, 2025, a 2016 Ford Focus embarked on a rage-fueled voyage of vengeance. The driver, a bitter and angry man whose name I will never speak, buckled himself into the driver's seat and piloted that vehicle east on Martin Luther King Drive. This sedan of destruction was on a collision course with an emblem of law and order. This vehicle, like a bullet that had already left the barrel, was loose in our community on a mission of mayhem. The only target was a police officer, any police officer. It did not matter to the hate-filled driver who. It only mattered that it be a law enforcement officer, a crime fighter, a peacemaker, a symbol of the very structure of our society. Cincinnati, Norwood, Delhi, Springfield Township, or even the Highway Patrol. The shape and inscription of the badge did not matter. The color of his shirt did not matter, nor the style of his hat. The only thing that mattered to this murderer was that those that wear the badge feel the pain. On that particular day, Deputy Larry Ray Henderson did not purposefully choose to be at the end of that collision course, a mere 4 miles from where we sit now. Yet, in a way, through the choices that he had made over the past 57 years, he did choose to be standing there near that busy crosswalk, proudly wearing that badge that had put him in harm's way for 34 years. That black Ford Focus was hurtling down the street, headed for someone in uniform. Someone wearing a badge, and Larry was there. He was there faithfully doing his job, fulfilling the role of public servant, protecting his community and his brothers and sisters. Just like he had done since he was a teenager, taking a position in the line of fire so that others did not have to, facing what we all fear so that others could be safe and free. There is no doubt that on May 2nd, 2025, Larry took the place of another officer. He may have taken that place for me, or you, or anyone in this room. His sacrifice reminds me of another well-known story of sacrifice. A man I know well made a similar choice to take my place a long time ago and much farther away. This great man was quoted saying these words, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friend." As I reflected on Larry's final day of service, I realized that that is exactly what he did for all of us in law enforcement. As I mused over his life of sacrifice, I saw one parallel after another. Larry has more in common with this great man than some of you may think. It is my deepest hope that they are hanging out right now as we speak. Of course, the man I'm speaking of is not just a man. You can look that story up yourself or ask me later, and I'd be happy to tell you about it. Even though his final act of sacrifice took place 6,000 miles from here, almost 2,000 years ago, I'm happy to say I know him well, and I'd be happy to tell you his name. If you have the time, I could even introduce you. But today is about Larry. In fact, Larry Henderson is the only name you will hear from me this morning. Larry dedicated his life to service and making sacrifices. I will do my best to paint a picture of that life, or at least a collage of the stories that you have told me and my own experiences. When I was asked to speak, I was humbled beyond words. Like many others on patrol, Larry trained me in the academy. I worked alongside him, and I considered him a good friend. There are many here today who knew Larry better than me. Shot more sim rounds, kicked in more doors, diffused more bombs, went on more cruises, and drank more beers with Larry than I ever could have. I reached out to a few for some stories and anecdotes, and within a few hours, I had enough to do a mini-series. There's not enough time to tell you even half the stories about Larry, but we will hit the high points, and I encourage you to talk to one another. Tell your own stories, share your memories, and listen to the memories of others. I have no doubt that Larry's larger-than-life persona can live on indefinitely through the memories he made with us. Larry grew up in Marymount. In high school, he ran track, wrestled, and played football. As with anything he did in life, I'm sure he put everything he had into it. No doubt, making number 34 the fastest running back on the team was his ultimate mission. After graduating high school in 1985, he followed the military tradition of his father and grandfather by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps. Most of the men in his family were Marines. Or maybe I should say most of the Marines in his family were men. Larry's sister expressed her disappointment that her father would not permit her to enlist in the Marines. She had to marry one just to fit in. In the Marines, the values of the Marine Corps were further instilled in Larry. Courage, honor, courage, and commitment. These values and the Marine Corps motto, Semper Fidelis, always faithful, perfectly sums up his approach to life and work. In 1991, after his time in the Marines, Larry joined the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office as a corrections officer. He never accepted good enough or became stagnant in his career. He constantly sought out ways to provide additional service to his department and community. One of the first ways he did that was by volunteering for the Sheriff's Honor Guard. Throughout his entire career, Larry was always clean-shaven, his uniform crisply pressed, his shoes and leather goods polished and glossy black. The myriad of pins and medals he wore were perfectly aligned, brightly shining, and buffed to an absolute luster. Larry always looked sharp in uniform, which is why I was so shocked in December 2024 when he inquired of me about a no-shave status for his career as a special deputy. Although shocked, I replied with my customary response, "If you type and sign it, I'll send it." The letter never came through, and to this day, I don't know if he was serious or not, but I never saw him out of uniform at work or out of compliance with our grooming standards. Even as the inevitable march of time took its unavoidable toll, he kept his uniform in top order. Larry's activities did shift a bit over the years, from track and football to basic training, academy instructor, SWAT team, and finally onto a workload that, well, let's just say was slightly more relaxed. As he spent more time doing things like hospital security and school traffic control, Larry's fitness goals slowly transitioned also. Like most of us, he went from maintaining the peak of physical fitness to staying fit, and finally, like so many in our profession, maybe his goal was just fitness uniform. But Larry always did fit in his uniform, and he wore it well. It's okay to laugh. Larry could certainly take a joke. If he could right now, he'd be mocking my silly hooker boots and miming me on a motorcycle. That is something Larry could always do, make us smile. When he came to patrol in 1997, he began to brighten briefing rooms all across the county. Larry had a very special skill set. He could make us laugh, lighten the mood, and put us in check if we ever began to take ourselves or our jobs too seriously. His good-natured, sarcastic ribbing would have been incredibly offensive and disrespectful coming from anyone else. But when delivered with his playful smirk and smiling eyes, it usually landed soft, delivered the point, and kept all of our egos in check. Larry did not see rank when it came to his hazing. Everyone was fair game, from the rookie that made the mistake of showing up for a week with frosted tips to his poor stammering sergeant while he tried to explain the mythical 48-hour rule. You know what I'm saying. Whenever I get carried away with the administrative minutia, he was always ready with a snarky quip to realign my focus on the things that really mattered. Even the renowned commander of the Southwest Ohio Regional Sheriff's Office Bicycle Patrol Unit and assistant to the field training coordinator was not beyond a well-timed, reproachful remark to rein in any excess importance. Larry had very specific things to tease us all about. One time, the majority of the squad was involved in a use of force that ended with them holding the subject down in a very confined space. After several minutes squatting in the corner, one deputy began loudly complaining that he had been stricken with leg-paralyzing cramps. The following morning, in true Larry fashion, he arrived early for briefing and donated a banana and a new nickname for his fellow officer. Always considerate, Larry felt the potassium would help his squad mate with his cramps. And thanks to Larry, he will be known forevermore as Banana Boy. One of his favorite pastimes was to physically attack other members of the department. Casually approaching a complacent coworker when they would least expect it, he would stiffen the middle and index fingers of his right hand and loudly shout, "Snake bite!" while he delivered a forceful jab to any unprotected body part. He would then watch and laugh with sadistic glee as his victim flinched in pain. He would laugh. Then, while casting that well-known side eye, he'd slowly hum, in the most judgmental fashion imaginable. That was his style. It was very unique. Some might even say different. There is an FBI commander who ordered the drafting of a new policy after he discovered just how different Larry was. Having just been given an assignment in Huntsville, Alabama, this FBI commander was settling into his new role as the commandant of the Hazardous Devices School at Redstone Arsenal. He was no doubt proud to oversee the certification of his first class of freshly minted bomb technicians from all over the United States. Imagine how appalled he was at discovering the tradition that had sprung up within his highly esteemed educational institute. As legend has it, 2 Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies proudly stood in formation, nervously awaiting the placement of the HDU pins on their chests. Much to the commander's surprise, these new graduates were tacked with the HDU pin, a practice customary in the United States military, in which seasoned members of a branch or unit apply the newly earned rank or insignia without the backs on the pin. The sheriff's HDU pins were placed against the chests of the newly initiated members of the unit. The pins were then pounded home with such force that it pierced the skin, and scarred the flesh, granting permanent membership to the eager participants. Overwhelmed with pride, the two technicians shouted, "Semper Fi!" as a small crimson stain began to spread. The starched federal dignitary expressed great intrigue into this practice. The incumbent training staff tried to explain, "You see, sir, those are two deputies from Hamilton County. They're a little different." "Well, different or not," declared the commander, "that tradition ends here." No doubt, like any good bureaucrat, drafting the policy in his head while he spoke. Larry was one of a number of Marines that so honorably served their country, then joined the Sheriff's Hazardous Device Unit, or Bomb Squad, as it is often called. Larry loved being a bomb tech. Certified in 2001, he was the longest serving active member when he retired, with 23 years on the unit. Working with explosives is dangerous, but Larry was never one to avoid danger. Larry received a divisional commendation in 2011 when he was one of the first officers on the scene of a homicide. He entered the residence to check on the victim and maintained a position inside, attempting to negotiate with the armed suspect. Due to his heroic actions, Larry earned the Medal of Valor that day. Although the delivery was delayed, the medal will rest with him forever. Not only did Larry accept dangerous jobs, he volunteered for the riskiest assignments. He served on and even led the dive team for a time, and was also a member of the HCPA SWAT team. Yet somehow, even while doing the most dangerous tasks, he always had time for a laugh or a prank. He could make fun of anything, no matter how serious or how dark, but he always got the job done, and he was always respectful. After I became a corporal in 2011, Larry was on one of the first squads I supervised. He did not have a sergeant for several months, and I was half the age of most of the squad. They all had many more years of experience than I did, but Larry always made me feel good about trying to be a supervisor. Even though he had trained me in the academy and had more than twice as many years on the road as I did, and no doubt knew more about policing than I ever will, he always treated me respectfully, especially in front of the other officers. Larry had a big personality, and he carried a lot of weight in the briefing room. Through his words and actions, he graciously shared the respect he had earned with me. I will never forget that about Larry. Even in the past few years, as the most senior officer on the squad, he never complained or made excuses. "It's all good, man," was his constant catchphrase. He was the epitome of keeping it light, keeping it positive, and keeping it simple. When given a task, no matter how unpleasant, his only reply was one or two of these simple lines. "Yes, sir, no problem. I'll take care of it, sir." "Sure," or "Whatever you need, sir." I can still hear him saying that in my mind, and it is truly humbling. Deputy Henderson had a heart to help others. He could calm and de-escalate situations so subtly that many did not even remember how upset they were. As a defensive tactics instructor in the patrol academy, Larry spent many hours in the padded suit beating up other patrol officers and cadets. Accompanying him in these lessons of subordination was our irritable, now retired rangemaster, known well for his temperamental outbursts and physical corrective measures. During one heated session of pugilistic training, this ill-tempered trainer took a well-placed kneecap to the groin from a hapless cadet. As the former powerlifter raised him off the ground in a fit of rage, he began escorting him to the edge of the room. Larry, the ever-helpful problem solver, saw the trajectory of this ball of fury and calmly offered, "Hey, can I at least open the window before you throw him out?" Larry spent a great deal of time working with our training section. He also taught DARE classes and was actually considering the idea of going back to work full-time as a school resource officer. Yes, Larry was great with kids of all ages. I think mostly because he was kind of a big kid himself. After all of his children had grown up, he and his wonderful wife began the process of fostering children. In October of 2024, he joyfully declared that he had brought home his first foster child, a girl. For nearly 2 months, Larry and his wife poured their time, energy, and hearts into this little girl, until with very little warning, one day she was taken back. They immediately put their names back on the list to do it again. Selflessly, they volunteered for the toughest kids to place. Children with chemical dependence or premature births were no deterrent. In December, they took custody of a beautiful baby girl just 4 days old. At work, he showed us pictures, as proud as if she were his very own. This baby was taken back after 2 months. Almost 8 weeks to watch the changes happen, watch a baby grow, rock them to sleep, treat them like your very own, and then to have it all taken away. It takes very special people to do that over and over. Larry and his lovely bride are those very special people, caring for and prioritizing society's most helpless and innocent citizens. Again, this is the life of service and sacrifice I have been trying to tell you about today. Larry truly cared about his fellow man. He had a special knack for knowing when you were hurting or down, or even just plain tired. In the early morning hours, Larry was the man relieving the tired night shift officers. At the close of a 12 or 16-hour day, Larry could be counted on to arrive 15 to 20 minutes early, as the officers would begin sharing about the previous shift, maybe a domestic they had been on called to twice, or a suspect they had been looking for. Recognizing their fatigue, he would often cut them off and say these 5 words: "Go home, I got it." Sometimes he would flip it. Sometimes it was, "I got it, go home." But he always relieved well and very early. Larry and I worked many hours at Mercy Anderson Hospital. He often relieved me several minutes early. If I were telling him about a parking concern or an unruly patient I had been dealing with, he would simply take the radio and the key card from my hand. As he said, "Go home, I got it." If I've heard him say that once, I've heard it 100 times. What that said to me was that all the problems I thought still needed fixed were under control. All the things I'd left unfinished, he would deal with. He would address that unruly patient. He'd look for those suspects. If he got called there, he would even go back to that domestic a 3rd time. When Larry said, "Go home, I got it," we all knew that everything was going to be just fine. Through no fault of his own, Larry left a lot of things unfinished. There's a lawn that needs cut. There's a family that needs raised. There are people that need supported and cheered. Tomorrow, there will be an early morning briefing that needs a wisecrack and a laugh to get the day started. Somebody may even need a snake bite every now and then. That is on you now. It's finally our turn to relieve Larry. His shift on Earth was far too short, but it is time for him to secure. It's our job now. I hope you will join me in your hearts as we look at our brothers and sisters. Look to society's helpless and hurting. Look for the ones that Larry always looked after. We know the mission. We know the job: protect and serve. Will you finish the shift? Will you join me as I look to Larry and say, "Go home, I got it"?
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my appear, the hour I first believed, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
As we come to the close of the service, I'd like to offer a few reflections shared amongst what feels like a couple of thousand of Larry's closest friends. As the department's chaplain, I won't share personal stories or private conversations. Instead, I want to reflect on the way Larry lived and the legacy he leaves behind. Larry was a man devoted to others. That devotion was unmistakable across nearly 40 years of service to our country and to Hamilton County, first as a Marine and then as a sheriff's deputy. He didn't judge others by race, religion, nationality, or orientation. He looked at character. He believed in helping anyone who was willing to accept it, and he touched countless lives, many of whom he may have encountered only once, but left with a lasting impact. In what many would consider a well-earned retirement, Larry and his beloved wife Lori chose not to rest, but to give. They opened their home and hearts to foster children, once again showing that their lives were grounded in compassion, not convenience. Larry didn't care where someone came from. What mattered to him was where they would go with love, support, and someone who believed in them. That's who Larry was, someone who quietly, consistently chose to do good, simply because it was the right thing to do. Larry's life was stolen from us in an act of evil. How do we respond to such darkness? How do we carry on when something so senseless shatters us? We respond with light. A little light dispels much darkness. We don't have to fight darkness. We just need to introduce light. In a pitch black room, even a flicker of light can change everything. It doesn't take much. That is our task now, to honor Larry by living as he did, shining light into the lives of others through acts of goodness and kindness. So I ask you all today, take a page from Larry's life. Let's honor him by making a resolution, not like that New Year's resolution, but a commitment that you will actually live out. It doesn't have to be big. If you're usually grumpy in the morning, commit to greeting others with a smile and a kind word. Donate to a charity that helps others. Lend a hand to someone in need, but do it in Larry's honor. And who knows, maybe you'll find yourself doing it again and again. Larry never wanted the spotlight. That wasn't his style. So I'm going to shift directions a little bit and speak directly to his brothers and sisters of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Even after 30 years of service, I still wake up every morning feeling blessed to serve alongside each and every one of you. I often say the best part of this job is getting to work with some of the finest people I know. The hardest part, losing one of them. I'm so proud of all of you. You always have each other's backs. Yes, we bicker sometimes like siblings, but when it matters most, we stand together. This past week has shown that in powerful ways. Keep looking out for one another. We will get through this together, and we'll always carry our memories of Larry. No one can take that from us. To the Cincinnati Police and our fellow law enforcement agencies across Hamilton County, thank you. Thank you for pinning on that badge every day. Thank you for your courage, your sacrifice, and your dedication. You are seen and you are appreciated. To the citizens of Hamilton County, thank you for your support. Your presence here today means everything. But please, don't wait for a tragedy to show that support. Continue to stand behind the men and women who serve you. I've seen it. The waitress who brings cookies to the table paid for by a stranger. The heartfelt thank yous while on patrol. The letters and cards dropped off at the stations. We notice, we remember, we need that, especially when others are loud with hate. I remember my first day at the academy. They showed us photos of fatal accidents and graphic crime scenes, videos of officers being killed in the line of duty. They told us about high divorce rates, increased health risks, higher suicide rates, and the emotional toll of this profession. One person left that day, never to come back. This job is not for everyone. It takes a very special person to say yes. Despite all of that, I still want to help others. I want to ensure the citizens can sleep at night without worrying about the evil that lurks out there. Those are the people I ask you to support loudly and often. To Larry's family, there are no words. You had Larry up close every day. You knew his laugh, his quirks, his strength, and his love. Thank you for sharing him with all of us. Thank you for the sacrifice you made every time he walked out the door. You never knew if that would be the day you'd get the call. Sadly, that day came last Friday. But know this, you are and always will be part of our family at the Sheriff's Office. We are here for you, we uplift you in prayer, we surround you with love, and we will forever be grateful. To those who have passed before Larry, and who will no doubt greet him in heaven, be ready. Larry brings his sense of humor, his heart, and surely a few tricks up his sleeve. Heaven has gained an angel, a faithful servant, and a fierce protector. And finally, Larry, we had some good times. I'll always be grateful for those memories. If I ever wronged you in word or deed, or in failing to say or do something, I ask for your forgiveness. You are an amazing human being, a great friend, and a strong protector. You will be deeply missed. I know you're watching over us now. Rest easy, brother. We have her from here. Godspeed.
Trusting in God, we have prayed together for Larry, and now we come to the last farewell. There is sadness in parting here, but we take comfort in the hope that one day we shall see Larry again and enjoy his friendship. Although we may disperse in sorrow, it is the peace of God that will gather us together again. Therefore, let us console one another in the faith of Jesus Christ. Let us pray. Lord God, into your hands we commend our brother Larry in the sure and confident hope that with all who have died in Christ, he will be raised to life again with Christ on the last day. We thank you for all of the blessings you have given to Larry in this life. They are signs to us of your goodness and of the fellowship that we have with you in Jesus Christ. Lord, hear our prayer. Welcome our brother Larry to paradise, and help us to comfort each other with the assurance of our faith until we all meet in Christ to be one with you and with our brother Larry forever. Amen. Bow your heads and pray for God's blessing. Merciful Lord, You know the anguish of the sorrowful. You are attentive to the prayers of the humble. Hear your people who cry out to you in their need, and strengthen their hope in your lasting goodness. We ask your blessing upon each of us this day. Amen. We now take our brother Larry to his place of rest.
And that concluded really part one of the memorial service for Deputy Larry Henderson, who died in the line of duty exactly 1 week ago while working a traffic detail for the University of Cincinnati graduation. They will now begin the processional to Spring Grove Cemetery, where he will make it to his final resting point. His final resting place, I should say.
A lovely service, as we would expect. We heard from the sheriff, and I was so struck by how hard that must have been for her.
Yeah.
Because this was one of her own, and she did know him personally and really cared for him personally. It had to be just a little extra hard to do that today. But we also heard from his officer in charge, and that was really lovely. From humor to talking about just how much of a perfectionist and buttoned down he was in his clothing and his grooming, but also was someone who was a little different and had a sense of humor and evolved over the years.
No one knows you quite like your boss, right?
That's right, that's right, that's right.
And if you're hearing a couple of extra laughs with us here in the studio today, it's because we are joined by two law enforcement experts, and we want to take a moment right now and introduce them. You want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, we have Cincinnati Police Captain Jeff Butler with us, and we also are pleased to have with us former UC Police Chief and current Crime Stoppers President Jane Ferreira. And I will say, first of all, this reminds me so much of Sonny Kim's funeral, and Mr. Butler, you presided over that. You put that together.
I was one of there's a huge team that led that together. Sonny, I was the captain of District 2. Just under 10 years ago, this June, it'll be 10 years of Sonny's murder. The city of Cincinnati, the Hamilton County Sheriffs, and phenomenal partners in this area put together that ceremony, and this brings back a lot of memories of that.
And you knew Deputy Henderson.
Yep, I've had contact with him through my career. We ran into each other several times. Wasn't obviously as close as many people here, but I've had contacts with him. He was, everything they're saying about him isn't even close to the man that he was. He's impacted so many people, but it's obviously it's a tremendous tribute to him.
I was going to say, what are your first thoughts as we sit here seeing them get ready to take the casket outside and begin that processional to Spring Grove Cemetery? What sticks out to you most from that service we just watched together?
It's the first step of the transition of the grief healing. The last week, obviously, it's the grief process, the shock to the community, the shock to the family, the shock to the law enforcement community. This is the first step of that healing. Mm-hmm. You're going to see some amazing things along the way. It's needed. It's unfortunate we have to go through this, but you're going to see some of the better things of humanity that's going to occur, and it's going to take a long time, but it's needed. And you're going to see tears. You're going to see mothers having to explain things to their little children. You're going to see the elderly people that their world has changed. And I'll defer to the chief because he's been this a longer time than me, but this is over 50 years of this for me, of seeing this.
Yeah, Chief, this is a gut punch to the whole community.
Yes. Well, to the comment that Jeff just made about I've been in it longer than him, I actually came on to Cincinnati Police Department before I went to UC, and I came on with his father.
That's okay. Lots of perspective, and in the perspective in this funeral and service that we're seeing today, there's so much tradition that is similar in each one, but everyone is a little different as well. The family probably has some involvement in that.
Yes. When I first started into law enforcement, I remember being told that the police department is a quasi-military organization. The rank structures are the same, the discipline and the traditions and all of those things that are there. And those will be there, but they'll have the flavor of the individuals. Some of it will be because of the person and their own personality, as the captain here reiterated about Larry's personality and how he, and each of us kind of brings that to it. But there's the base things that will be there. And the one thing that I always talk about is I'm fortunate to have been in law enforcement because there's a kinship that, we refer to every law enforcement officer has two families, the blood and the blue. And it is a family. I've traveled and had opportunities to be in other places around the country and even out of the country. But if you come across someone who is a law enforcement officer, never having seen them before in your life, but they know you're a law enforcement officer, there's a connection there. I mean, immediate connection there, that you shared an experience that really most people don't get.
I was going to say, what is it about that makes people bond so quickly? You may not know them, as you said, but you obviously feel an instant connection. What is it that creates that bond with people you don't even know?
Well, it starts with the fact that you rely on each other. Similar with the military, fire, police. You go into situations that are dangerous. And in some cases, life-threatening, and unfortunately, in some cases, actually end up in the loss of a life. But you have others with you, alongside of you, and that's an experience. And I don't mean to, by any means, denigrate any other profession. Right. But that's an unusual situation.
It's a different level. I mean, we have each other's backs at work, but not life or death.
Yeah.
You have to have a trust to be at such a different level.
No question. And even if you didn't serve with that person in another city, one story that I tell, I had a privilege and honor of working in the Olympics in Barcelona for security. And we didn't have cell phones back then, but I had a pager, and I got a page to come back to the headquarters. And I'm out looking at routes and getting familiar, and I got to get back. And I saw a police officer in Barcelona, and in my very broken Spanish, explained to him that I needed to, and I happened to have on my credential a pin from the International Police Association, which is international, and it's all police officers. He saw the pin and recognized it, looked at my pin and said, "IPA," and I said, "Sí." He walked over, stopped the bus, walked out in the street and stopped the bus and told the bus driver what I needed, put me on the bus. I was dumbfounded. Even though with all of my own experience, I thought, wow, he has no idea who I am, but we had that connection.
Transcends boundaries.
It's just, I can't imagine any other. Jeff and I were talking about earlier. I look back, and it's been a long career for me, and I can't imagine any other career that I could feel that way about.
It's nice you have such pride in your career. We've been talking too about how so many people are not going into law enforcement right now, and that's a real challenge to the future.
It's a lot of things. Law enforcement's a pendulum. It swings. Society makes it swing both ways, right or wrong. That makes corrections. Law enforcement's a career that has an ugly side and it has a very beautiful side. Unfortunately, the ugly side gets the attention. What you're going to see today along this procession route, you're going to see the beautiful side. Because what's going to happen is the vocal side, the support, it's always there. The law enforcement knows it's there. It's not showcased a lot. What you're going to see, again, I talk about the parents with children, little kids play cops and robbers. Okay? You're going to have questions from children to parents. Their world is shattered. Now they're going to stand up. You're going to see, businesses stop, their entire businesses are going to empty. You're going to see the processions go by. You'll see trucks on the highway literally form a barricade to get them safe. You're going to get the police officers safely, and to get Larry and his family safely to the hospital, to the funeral.
And speaking of that procession and what we're going to be seeing, we're going to go live now to our Megan Mangella, who is outside the Cintas Center, where that procession to Spring Grove Cemetery is going to begin. Megan, we're seeing a lot of the people who are inside for the service beginning to file out. Something I wanted to ask you earlier, because you were able to see people as they were coming in. Where were you seeing people come from? We know we were going to see a lot of people from the surrounding communities, but did you see anyone from out of state? And as you were talking to them, what were they saying to you as they were making their way in today?
Well, you know, to be honest, Kyle, as folks were making their way in, they were very somber. A lot of folks just had their head down, men and women in uniform that really just wanted to let the emotions of the day internalize a little bit. So I just kind of let those folks walk in. I did chat with the Fallen Brotherhood Society, who had members here from, you talked about out of state, Houston, Dallas, New York. That gentleman told me whenever someone dies in the line of duty and it's attached to something felonious, like the case with Deputy Henderson, they show up, and they did. There was 6 members of that society who came in support of fallen Deputy Henderson. I want to step out of the way so you could just see how large the crowd was inside the Cintas Center. I know you guys just watched the service, but people coming out still from the steps here at the top that you're looking at down to the bottom of the doors, which I could see right now. As we got out here very early this morning, I think we arrived here at 7 a.m., we watched the streams of cars arrive. 500 vehicles, my photographer and I counted, from all over the place. The furthest away I saw was Lakewood, that's up near Cleveland. I talked to those gentlemen. They said it took about 4+ hours to get up this morning and drive here for this, but they said it was something that they wanted to do, something they felt like they had to do because of the brotherhood that is the police officers and the sheriff's department. Also, Elmwood Place, Sharonville, Coleraine Township, Boone County, Northern Kentucky, just to name a few. You know, it's interesting. The sheriff's departments around the state have similar uniforms and police vehicles, so you have to really get up close to see what county they're from. I happened to see one from Seneca County, which I had to look that up. That's a little north of Dayton. The biggest town in that county is Tiffin, Ohio. So that just gives you a scope of how big the show was here for fallen Deputy Henderson. This procession that you talked about will leave fairly shortly. We will not have an angle of it from where I'm standing right now. We're on the upper parking lot of the Cintas Center. The procession is leaving out the back, but they will process to the graveside at Spring Grove Cemetery. And I can tell you, after serving for 33 years with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Henderson's path crossed with a lot of people. I had the chance to talk with Cincinnati City Council member Scotty Johnson, who talked about the brotherhood of the police department and just said how the love they have for each other was shown today in the service. And talking about the love, I think my photographer is showing you the gentleman we know from social media. Hilarious Scales is his name. That's what he goes by. And he has a sign that says, "We love you." I chatted with him earlier, and he said he wanted to be here today to show his community. He said, quote, "From the hood to the streets," that he is in support of the men and women in uniform, and he wants everyone to respect each other. He has gotten a lot of handshakes, given a lot of hugs, and taken photos. He said, "We're all people. We all come from the same community." So that was a bit of surprise to see him out here and just showing the support that he has given to the folks who are leaving this memorial service right now. A little bit earlier, a few minutes ago, but I did get the chance to talk with Hamilton County Prosecutor Connie Pillage about her thoughts after listening to the memorial, and we have that sound pulled up for you.
The eulogy just showed me so much of the spirit of this man and how he was a servant through and through, whether it was as a Marine, United States Marine, or as a sheriff's deputy, or as a trainer in the sheriff's department, as a foster dad. Service was in his blood. He just tried to make things better for us so that we could live our lives in peace.
And that was Hamilton County Prosecutor Connie Pillage, who yesterday announced an indictment and that she would seek the death penalty against, of course, the suspect in this case. I don't want to mention his name because today is dedicated to the memory of Larry Henderson. Another interesting tidbit is just the fact that all of these folks have come from all over to take part in this service. I'm not sure how many will be part of the procession, but I do know that it is leaving from here shortly, Kyle and Paula, and heading to Spring Grove Cemetery. I'm going to try to talk to a few more folks, and we'll check back in with you in just a little bit. For now, at the Cintas Center, Megan Mongello, Local 12 News.
Hey, Megan, before you run and do that, I just want to know, seems like everyone as they were walking out was so serious and so somber. But once we saw that gentleman with that sign that said, "We love you," you would instantly see the smiles on the folks' face. Did you notice that as well, Megan?
Yeah, and that was my big takeaway from this. He is someone, and I even asked him this. I said, "You're someone known for jokes and for lightheartedness on social media, but obviously this is a very serious situation. So why did you want to come?" And he said, because it's something that happened in our community, and I'm a part of our community, whether it's laughter or sadness. I want to be here, and I want to show everyone that we are one and we are together. So I think that is what you're seeing from the man who goes by Hilarious Scales. I said, "Do you want to use your real name?" And he said, "No."
Interesting. You can feel the appreciation. You can feel the support that he is giving, and you can see how well received it is by all of these people that are there. Megan, we'll let you go and continue to talk with people, and when you get something, please let us know so we can hear from you and get some more perspective from the people who were there today.
I think even perceived here in the studio, I saw some light moments and some smiles. I think there's so much time we are focusing on what divides us as a nation and in the community, and you tend to think that there's not this outpouring on both sides, but this was a visual display that the community is behind law enforcement. What happened was perpetrated by one alleged suspect, not by a whole community. The community is together.
Absolutely, and that's, as you say, that's the epitome of it, and you will see that repeated over and over during this procession. You could see, again, the healing. That is something that every officer walking out of there today needed. That's what the family needed as they're walking out. And it wasn't just the officers. You could see the husbands, the wives, the citizens on patrol who were walking out. I was watching the crowd coming through. And it wasn't just Cincinnati officers or Hamilton County deputy sheriffs. It was from far away. Everyone's hurting. And that man alone, I just watched him touch 750, 1,000 people and just made a difference in their life just for a moment. That's starting that healing.
And it's not about the individual, the officer, it's the fact that what I do matters to the community I serve. That's all that the officers are asking for is just, does what I'm doing matter to the community? And that man just sent that message. He did. Way up that, yes, what you do does matter.
In a really powerful way, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Something else that I thought was really powerful was Sergeant Dave Downing's words that he spoke there, though he was Deputy Henderson's supervisor, is what I would call him. He was his OIC, but you said was officer in charge. And it was just incredible what he said there.
Incredible insight into the man and the relationship that he had, not only with his coworkers, but with his community. He was the person that made things work. In life, they teach us in the academy or they teach us in the police thing of formal leaders or informal leaders.
Yeah.
Larry was the informal leader. When things were bad, you look to someone to keep it moving. If there's a bad day, there's the guy that it's going to be okay. Policemen don't get called to birthday parties.
Yeah.
Okay, firemen get called to birthday parties. Yeah. The policemen go when someone needs help, and so that wears on policemen. You have to put on that professional face most of the time. But there's always someone when you're kind of grounding out. There's always someone within your collective work group. He's the guy, whether it was his snake bite, which I would tell you this.
Did you experience one of the snake bites?
Not from him, but from others. But those can be irritating.
Right.
But the same way, it's what uplifts you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a little soundbite if you missed this earlier and just joining us, just to talk about how calm he was. This is from the eulogy.
He never complained or made excuses. "It's all good, man," was his constant catchphrase. He was the epitome of keeping it light, keeping it positive, and keeping it simple. When given a task, no matter how unpleasant, his only reply was one or two of these simple lines. "Yes, sir, no problem. I'll take care of it, sir." "Sure," or "whatever you need, sir." I can still hear him saying that in my mind, and it is truly humbling. Deputy Henderson had a heart to help others. He could calm and de-escalate situations so subtly that many did not even remember how upset they were. As a defensive tactics instructor in the patrol academy, Larry spent many hours in the padded suit beating up other patrol officers and cadets. Accompanying him in these lessons of subordination was our irritable, now retired rangemaster, known well for his temperamental outbursts and physical corrective measures. During one heated session of pugilistic training, this ill-tempered trainer took a well-placed kneecap to the groin from a hapless cadet. As the former powerlifter raised him off the ground in a fit of rage, he began escorting him to the edge of the room. Larry, the ever-helpful problem solver, saw the trajectory of this ball of fury and calmly offered, "Hey, can I at least open the window before you throw him out?"
I feel like we really got to know Larry through his words there. And something that I had heard throughout the week, but he really elaborated on it, was the foster parent that Larry and his wife had become. After raising two of their own children, they decided, hey, we want to help children who may not have a place to go at this time. And to hear how they had multiple foster children in just a short amount of time, and he was taking pictures and showing them to his colleagues at work, like these were kids that were his own. Was incredibly touching. And you had heard that as well. You had known that as well, right?
Yeah, one of the things for this week, and social media is always one of those difficult places.
Indeed.
But one of the things is that people have shared such within the police community.
Yeah.
We all obviously have our groups, and people have shared such amazing stories, which really exposed more and more and more of the person that he is and was, and his wife as well. And the stories they're talking about, the stuff the policemen, we keep walls up ourselves. We tell the bravado stories. We don't tell our buddies about them, because
as you said earlier, we don't get the call, everything's going fine, send a cop.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're there, it was a problem, and there's a role that we have to play, and that's usually that kind of stern and in charge, but we're people. Now, fathers, brothers, mothers, sisters, and what Captain Downing put out there was the human side of Larry. And I was impressed with how well he did that. But to see, I think it's important. Again, Jeff and I were talking in the green room, and I said, to me, what's really valuable in law enforcement is the ability to balance. In some situations, you have to be Andy from Mayberry. In other situations, you have to be Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
And the ability to bounce between those two things.
Yeah, they talked a lot about that. His personality that evolved, and he was able to fit in a lot of different roles.
Exactly. And I think Larry Henderson was the epitome of that ability to
go back and forth.
To go back and forth and not get stuck in one.
We're going to go back and forth a bit here. We're going to follow the procession, but I know we're going to go back out right now to Megan Mongello outside the Cintas Center. She has an update for us there. Megan. Oh,
all right, so Megan is still getting ready. But go ahead, you were going to say something.
One of the things you see on the side of police cars, it's the protect and serve.
Yes.
One of the the protection part is the adrenaline part that the policemen always get credit for when something good happens. But the part that really shows of what they've talked about, even with the eulogy, was the serve part. And that was really emphasized again when we talked about the ability or the compassion to foster. It takes a very special kind of person and a special kind of family.
And give the baby away after 8 weeks when the biological parent comes back.
You think about that as when a child is at its weakest. you know, whether it's a chemical addiction or an abuse of a family, to open up your own hope, to give the child just a moment of hope. And then you're the one who's opening up your heart, and then, okay, whatever circumstance brings it away, then do it again. I mean, that tells you about the special kind, and, you know, probably not in the right place, but the person who's special they are to be a foster parent. Maybe this is, Larry becomes an advocate, his memory, to open it up for other families. Do it for his memory.
Could.
And you know, most people think of retirement as a time to slow down.
Right.
And he's saying, hey, I want a newborn baby in my house. I'm not a parent, you are.
Correct.
That's a lot of work.
Correct.
So I think that just speaks to the character of him and his wife collectively and the type of people that they are.
I think we are ready for Megan now. Megan, are you with us outside the Cintas? Hi.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry. I saw Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi walking by. She declined to talk. She said it's been an emotional morning, so obviously understandable, but that was what I was doing when you guys were trying to chat with me earlier. But we are back here live with you outside of the Cintas Center, and it has been quite a show of support for fallen Deputy Larry Henderson. I can tell you the stream of uniformed officers and the public who were inside for the memorial service has kind of proceeded to their vehicles and are starting the procession to the ceremony at Spring Grove Cemetery. But there are still some folks around the entrance behind me. From this perspective, I want to show you what the entrance to the Cintas Center looks like, because obviously a lot of folks are here for different events, but today it is definitely a somber day and a different setup out front. Through the trees, you can see two fire trucks with the ladders upright and outstretched. They hung an American flag and then a flag with a police flag with a black line through it below that American flag as folks entered through the doors for the memorial service for Larry Henderson Jr. The visitation started at 9 a.m., of course, then the funeral service followed at 11. It was an emotional morning for a lot of folks walking in here. Very somber, very quiet, people just internalizing their feelings and their memories of Deputy Henderson, who spent 33 years serving our community. I had a chance to talk with Cincinnati City Councilman Scotty Johnson about being here today and also his interactions with Deputy Henderson.
He would always just say to me once I got elected, keep your head down, it's dangerous down there, in a joking manner, and ironically, he gave his life for the amazing people of Hamilton County.
What is your takeaway from what you just heard in that service?
Well, unfortunately, I had 6 brother officers pass in my 33-year career and lost their lives in the line of duty. But the message that Father Angie and they kept communicating, love conquers all. During these difficult times, during these times where there's anger and pain from the loss, love conquers all. We'll continue to unite, lift one another up, and we'll get through this.
What is your message to the community? There's some unrest right now about what just unfolded. What would your message be?
My message is, you know, look, there was nobody won in this situation. I urge everybody to stay calm. I believe the citizens of Cincinnati and Hamilton County will do that. And let's wait and see what the investigation reveals. But knowing that nobody won in these situations, an 18-year-old lost his life, a great man that gave his life is serving the citizens of Hamilton County, nobody wins. Let's stay calm and let's take the message of love and spread it throughout the county.
And last question, obviously there's so many officers from all across the region. I even saw one from Lakewood, Ohio. They said they drove in 4 hours this morning. What is the brotherhood like? You were a former police officer.
It's like no other. There are times when there's squabbles, of course, just like any family. But the support and love and uplift that comes with being in this fraternity is one you never forget. It's an admirable profession, and I'm glad I did it. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing.
And Speaking of the admirable profession, you can see just the respect that's being shown for this fallen deputy. Right now, we have moved to the top parking lot of the Cintas Center, and it is just profound to look behind me and see the lights on of all of the vehicles from around the region, around the state, who have shown up here to pay their respects. 500 vehicles we counted from more than 80 different agencies. Elmwood City, the city of Dayton. We saw some from Boone County, Newark, Ohio, all over, who are here because one of their own lost his life in the line of duty. We're going to continue to monitor the situation up here and also chat with more folks. When we have more, we'll bring it to you live. Reporting at the Cintas Center, Megan Mongello, Local 12 News.
Megan, you were showing us there where we could see the police vehicles with their lights on, no sirens. Obviously, that's what we see during these times. Any indication how soon that procession will begin? It looks like everyone was in the cars. Jeff was saying it could take 45 minutes for them just to wind through the Cintas Center, but any indication things may be getting started soon?
Not really, Kyle. I can tell you that a lot of people are still standing around. The cars have not moved in the past 15, 20 minutes or so, so they are not ready to go anywhere at this point, but I think that's okay. A lot of people today have dedicated the day to Deputy Henderson, as we saw from the Hamilton County Justice Center. The court shut down today because of this service to allow people to come and to pay their respects. One thing I wanted to point out too is the program. I know that you guys watched the service live through our coverage on Local 12, but this is the program that everyone was handed as they walked in. It has a picture of Deputy Henderson as a regular guy. I think that is important to note. We have shown his picture with his badge and his uniform on, and he served the community for 33 years. But to his family and friends, he's just a regular guy that loved and, that was a family man too. We heard that in the eulogy today. And I want to flip it over. There's another photo of him on the back with a message that says, "Death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal." So there's another photo of Larry Henderson and who today is dedicated to. Paula and Kyle.
Thank you for that, Megan. And let us know when you start to see some movement. But again, we're being told it could take a half hour, 45 minutes before we start that procession, which is going to go down Victory Parkway, Martin Luther King, Clifton Avenue, and then to Spring Grove Avenue.
I was thinking about the picture that Megan showed for the top of that was on the front of the program there for the memorial service. I think it's so interesting that they didn't choose one where he was in uniform because they said he didn't really take himself too seriously, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was so beautifully said there, and I think it really spoke to that with the fact that they chose a portrait where it looked like he was on vacation, having a good time, and just enjoying life.
Yes. Yes.
I thought that was really...
To the time it's going to take to get the procession together. Earlier today, I heard the number of 100 police vehicles.
Wow.
Well, that takes a while to get 100 vehicles in any semblance of order to be able to make that trip.
You were saying earlier that you have heard from others that Cincinnati in particular has amazing coordination for these events in the law enforcement community compared to other places around the country.
Yeah, as I've said before, and as Jeff has said, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the family, the blue, and all of that is there. But here, it's at a whole nother level. And I work at the Police Museum, and there's a Hamilton County Police Association, which was formed in 1937. And it takes all the 40-some law enforcement agencies in the county have signed mutual aid contracts because when you get into some of the areas that are very small departments, my brother was the chief in Fairfax. He had 10 officers, including himself. A major event, he couldn't staff it. And you can't schedule them. They happen when they happen. But with the mutual aid, if he had a need for a SWAT call out, there's a Hamilton County Police Association SWAT team
that can show up.
That could be 60 officers made up of 2 from that department, 1 from here, 1 from there, 5. And that kind of cooperation that I was saying to you earlier, Paula, that federal law enforcement officers get transferred around the country. And we have had federal law enforcement officers tell us the cooperation you all have here is just at a whole nother level.
And speaking of that cooperation and collaboration, a lot of the Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies were at the memorial service today, but they still had a county to oversee. And so there's other law enforcement agencies that are filling in for them. And we often see that during memorial service, correct?
I have to tell you, down at the Police Museum, we've got so many artifacts, and one of them are shoulder patches. Oh. My favorite shoulder patch during COVID, when it was tough for everybody, there's a patch that says, Sharondale Park Police Department, which was Sharonville, Forest Park, and Springdale. They had a patch made, and they called themselves the Sharondale Park Police Department. That kind, I don't know, that it impressed me, and I've been in the job for a long time, but I thought, wow, they took pride in that cooperation enough that they had on their own, out of their own pockets, a shoulder patch made that compressed those three departments into one.
Wow. You just mentioned COVID, and you know what? This community did not skip a beat during COVID when Officer Kaya Grant died in the line of duty. Correct. And we still had a huge outpouring. Everyone managed to social distance and still do a beautiful tribute to that woman.
Yes, it was.
And again, it's a tribute to this community.
Yes.
We have this visual reinforcement. Sheriff Charmaine McGuffrey really touched my heart because, again, she was so close to this man in her own department. Let's listen to a little bit of what she had to say.
On behalf of Deputy Larry Henderson, the family of Deputy Henderson, and the entire Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support from throughout the state of Ohio and our great nation. Here, we are united in grief as we reflect the life and service of Deputy Larry Henderson. Today, we are reminded that we, as we are called to service, we raise our hand, we swear the oath to walk the path of justice. And in our mirrored reflection, our family, our moms, our dads, our wives, our husbands, our children, they have their hands raised too, to acknowledge the sacrifice and support for what we have been called to do. And as we travel the road of justice, it climbs. It climbs to the most narrowed and steepest of trails. At times, our very lives hang in the balance. Yet each of us press on with courage to endure the most challenging of circumstances. Some making the ultimate sacrifice. It is then, in the darkest of times, that we must grab on to each other so as to not lose our way. And when the road clears and the path is wide, the weather calm, it is then that we rest. It is then that we mourn. It is then that we celebrate the times that we have joined hands, the times we have embraced, and the times that we have raised our glasses in salute of our love and friendship. It is now in the brotherhood and the sisterhood of our families that Deputy Larry Henderson is with us, and we are with him. Each of us knowing in our hearts that we will never walk alone.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that Sheriff McGuffey made comment about the family.
That stuck out to me too. Why was that something that we were particularly moved by?
I don't know anyone in law enforcement that could succeed without the support of that family. And she brought that out, I thought, beautifully to make mention of that. I know because of the type of job, but even the hours you work. I tell people when I first married with my wife, she attended more of my family gatherings than I did. Because if it was a holiday, I might be working. I could be working on third shift and sleeping during the day, and she would go, you know, so, and all of that, the support of the Blue family we've highlighted today, which is extremely important, but I'm glad she didn't let us neglect the support of the Blood family.
Which is what you share with the military.
Yes.
In that respect, the whole
Yes.
family serves.
Just want to let everyone know that we are seeing the procession begin outside the Cintas Center as they make their way to Spring Grove Cemetery. But this is going to be a long one, right? You said, Gene, that you heard maybe 100 plus vehicles.
I heard her, and that would not surprise me to have 100 cars. Police cars with the lights and all of that. And Jeff was part of the Sonny Kim organizing that whole thing.
The big part, if you're looking, you see the hearses now being escorted by the motorcycles. That's the beginning of it. But there'll be, I'm sure, well over 300 to 500 cars in this procession as we go through.
Wow.
And there was a procession getting to the Cintas Center as well.
Correct.
We didn't follow that whole thing live, but that would have also been filled with pageantry and all the same just precision.
Yes, and that's the one that went from Spring Grove down through 71 through downtown, out to Henderson Township, went through his final beat, and then brought them to the Cintas.
And I believe a stop at Mercy Health where he also did a lot of security work
Yes.
too. So a lot of symbolism in that, and I'm assuming a lot of people at the sheriff's office there in Anderson and then outside of Mercy Health were standing out there to kind of pay their final respects.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that we will see a lot of that today as the procession makes its way to Spring Grove. Gene?
Yes, and there's a law in Ohio that you can't break into a funeral procession. And in the most cases, that's maybe 10 to 20 cars. Wow. So we're talking about a couple hundred, which means the community is going to be inconvenienced.
Yes.
In that they can't just go across. They got to wait for that whole procession to go through.
You know what you said earlier, you touched on it a little bit since we've been on the air, but also I saw a pre-recorded story with you, Captain Butler, where you were talking more about during these processions, sometimes truck drivers will kind of guard the procession, keep everybody calm, because they're going to have to wait through however long it takes. But so I actually, that's the first thing that evoked a little tear in me today, because I was thinking so much about anyone who had the strong father figure or the big burly guy, but that would pull over at a time like this to honor somebody. It's really touching.
Right. What they do, there's a strong community recognition of the impact of what is going on. Not just the tragedy is going on, but they recognize we're bringing the officer home, and they might not even know exactly what's going on. But when they see all the police cars, they see the hearse. That's what happened with Sonny. That's happened, with all the other officers. They want to be involved some way. So you'll find the truck drivers and delivery. They'll find a way to engage themselves. So they want to do something. So they'll form the protective ring, along the way, and say, "This is how I'm going to help bring you home." And it's empowering. Yeah. I mean, you feel it.
Well, I was going to say, when you're in these processions and you're obviously mourning, you're obviously sad, and you see someone with the sign, like we saw that gentleman at the Cintas Center that said, "We love you," or maybe you'll see a child that's standing there just kind of out of respect, not saying anything with a parent. How does that make you feel as an officer in the procession?
It begins, again, we talk about the healing, and I know I keep using that term. Yeah. It does. It warms your heart. It makes you feel like, okay, this is why I do what I do. Mm-hmm. It makes it worth it, because even on your worst day when you're engaged in that, you know you're helping someone. That's to protect and serve. That's why we're here. We're trying to, you protect those and help those who can't help themselves. On someone's worst day, not to use overstep and say military stuff, but it's not on my watch. Not today. I'm here for you. And so when you see that, and you see not to use John F. Kennedy Jr. back when he was saluting his dad, you see the little kid. It makes us all as human beings to make it worthwhile. You can't make sense of the tragedy of what happened. There is no justification for this. There was no justification for Danny and Ron back in '97. There's no justification for any of them. For Kevin Crayon, there was no justification of any of that we've lost. But when you see someone that generally is expressing their sorrow, their love, their support, that's when it's, if you remember the Grinch, when his heart suddenly, it does that to you. And that the world is a great place. The dear Lord has put us in a great place. Evil doesn't beat us, not today. And that's what that does to you while driving. You'll have grown men and women driving, crying. For Sonny's, I was driving, it was Dr. J and Dr. Johanneman, if you remember, one of the greatest doctors ever, if you weren't here from UC. He was in the car with me. Him and I'm in my 40s, he's in his 40s, he's a battle-worn surgeon. We were both in tears. Partially because of Sonny, we had a great conversation, but just seeing what we saw of the people just was amazing for both of us.
And the job, as we both said, you don't get called to the good things. So you do witness and are expected to deal with some of the worst conditions for a person in their entire life. And that can weigh on you. But when you go to, and you see people like that man with the sign, it's kind of like, okay, it was worth it. I don't want to over dramatic that kind of a thing, but it just means so much.
It matters, right?
It matters to the other officers that are there that, okay, it's worth it.
A lot of people are wondering how they can be of service to the law enforcement community at this time. Like, what can they do to help ease the pain? And I don't know if you guys have any ideas of things that people can do. And I know it's not a one-size-fits-all solution to maybe how they can help and how they can let them know that they matter and they're supporting them. But is there something that people can do if they're looking to do something to show that they are supporting you all?
For me, if I'm in an airport and I see military people in uniform, I just simply say thank you. That's all. Just an acknowledgement of that you understand, and that's all I need.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. That's all.
A smile, a wave. Going back to the personal, and the most recent to me obviously is Sonny. I talked to Sonny 3 minutes before his radio run. I was on scene. The men and women, the friends of mine, dealing with the aftermath of the District 2. Watching what we went through, and just the community support, the thank you. Just watching, sounds weird, but the 3 to 4 year old little kids just randomly just walking out of anything, just hugging a policeman, just the kindness, just a smile. You don't have to say anything, just walk by with a nod. Let the policeman know you're there. We went through, thanks to, again, Councilman, Amy Murray, worked with her, we brought her an idea. We need to recognize Sonny. Marburg and Erie used to be called East Hyde Park Playground. That is Sonny Ken Memorial Park. They renamed it. We renamed it.
A sign in his honor yesterday by Kenwood.
Yeah, there's the highway. We renamed the highway.
Yes, it just struck me.
We've done things that you go by little things in the community you can quietly do. I mean, I am sure that there's going to be an outpouring for the next month on this. But don't forget, in 6 months, as things get away from everybody, don't forget.
I'm going to stop you there for a minute. We've been looking at beautiful drone photography of the procession starting, and I know our Adam Clements is along Martin Luther King, where it is going past. You are in Corryville, Adam?
Yeah, we're right outside of the UC Medical Center. We're on Highland and MLK, right in front of the UC Medical Center here. Traffic has just been blocked off in all directions. There are officers stopping. I'm going to step back here, and you can see an empty MLK Drive right now. There's a fire engine up at Burnett, along with a police cruiser blocking traffic there. Overall, we haven't seen a great deal of people, but we are starting to see some more and more folks come out of the hospital and out of the surrounding buildings here. A lot of them asking questions. What are you guys doing here? What are you here for? And then we tell them, and then there's that sort of consistent reaction of that exhale, that head going down, and oh yeah, that's right. And a lot of people are sticking around. I would say it's a solemn tone here in Corryville, just on the outskirts of Clifton. As we await, we do expect that procession to get here any minute now. But again, not as many people as I expected. Then again, I think there are a lot of people who just didn't take in the information to know what was happening here today. We hope to see this procession come through. Again, this is just one of those things where it's so surreal to be out here. I've had the misfortune, I would say, of covering several of these. Claremont County Sheriff's Deputy Bill Brewer, when he passed away several years ago. You guys have been talking about Sonny Kim. I remember that, and there's just this, there's this feeling. It's just a hard feeling to describe when you're out here covering this, and the mood of these people. It's not a parade by any stretch. It's a solemn, somber occasion, and for the most part, people tend to respect that. Up on the corner, there's a gentleman. I don't know, Ed, if you can see him on the other side of the road, holding an American flag as we await for that procession to get through here. But right now, we're just waiting. Again, we expect this to get through this area any minute now. A few people over here standing on the corner. I'm going to go try to talk to some people back here. Ma'am? Hi. What's your name?
My name's Kelly.
Kelly, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. You came out here, why?
To support the family and the other officers.
Anytime something like this happens, there's just this certain heaviness, weight to it. Are you kind of sensing that today?
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sad.
It's sad, and it's tragic in so many different ways, affecting so many different people, and it shows how, the actions of one person can have such a tremendous ripple effect in a negative way, but also from the other end, you look at Deputy Larry Henderson and the ripple effect that his life had on so many people. I think we're seeing that today, complete strangers coming out to support him.
Brings people together.
It does, certainly. Thank you so much for talking.
Thanks.
All right. Have a great day. Again, any minute we expect to see that procession come down here. It looks like there may be some activity. We don't hear the sirens just yet, but once it does get through the area, it's extremely impactful. Hearing all the sirens, seeing, and Megan was talking earlier about all the different jurisdictions coming from all over, and I can remember, in particular, Bill Brewer in Claremont County. I remember seeing cruisers from as far away as California, Oregon, New York State, and it's just incredibly moving to see that sense of community within the law enforcement community, that sense of family, that sense of brotherhood, sisterhood. It's a sense of family, is what it is, and you really see that on full display in these tragic situations, while also remembering to celebrate the life and the man that Deputy Henderson was. We spoke earlier this week with a lieutenant with the sheriff's office who was trained by Larry Henderson, and he said Larry Henderson was more than a deputy. He was more than a badge. The man behind the badge was who mattered, and he mattered to a great number of people, as we've learned, in the last week or so, that those people who were close with him already knew. Just a sad day, but also, and you heard Sheriff McGuffey talk about how much the support means to her, to the entire sheriff's office, but also to the entire law enforcement community. And occasions like this, with people showing up people lining the streets. We're starting to see some more people across the street. There's a contingency growing. Again, all the traffic has been blocked off. It's been blocked off for about 10 minutes here in this area. And it's blocked all the way down as far as you can see here down Martin Luther King Drive. And it looks like here it comes. I'm just going to step back and let this moment breathe and play out. There you see the hearse carrying the body of Deputy Larry Henderson. This is presumably vehicles of family members coming by, and then we will see the overwhelming procession of law enforcement vehicles. For now, we're going to send it back to you in the studio as we continue to watch this procession begin.
Thank you for
That was nicely timed, and we've just learned that we just saw more motorcycles in that procession than we would have seen if the president were in town.
That is
just a nice little tidbit of information. Nicely timed that we got to see that.
And as Adam was talking about how, it's unfortunate that we have to cover these, and he was having, it's hard to really put it into words. And I had a colleague that I worked somewhere else who described it as an unfortunate privilege. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, right? Because it is a privilege to be able to carry this and show this to people who want to be a part of this day. But it's unfortunate that we have to do this. But it is such a show of respect and honor to this fallen officer and his family and his friends, and also the other members of law enforcement that he worked with for, more than 30 years, I believe. It was 34 years of service, right? Yes. So it really is a tribute to all those who knew and loved Deputy Larry Henderson. So unfortunate privilege. I had a colleague who would describe this work as that, and I thought it was important to include that because it is hard to describe what it is that we're doing here today.
That's a nice turn of phrase.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's a privilege to be able to broadcast this as well. But the family also has to agree on certain things, like allowing us in the Cintas Center, and I'd like to thank them. I know that was a decision they had to think about this week.
Very much so.
And
they're
this part would have been public.
Family, correct? That's what we have heard kind of throughout the week, was that they're not, and we haven't heard from the wife, but they seem to be a very private family, close-knit as well.
Our Megan Mongello has an update for us, so we're going to go back. And Megan, you are still out in front of the Cintas Center, correct?
Well, we have moved, Paula, because we want to bring you the best vantage point of the procession. Adam talked about the start of the procession, the casket holding the body of Deputy Henderson, reaching him at Martin Luther King Boulevard. Well, I can tell you that the cars are still filing behind me. The start, or the end, I should say, of the procession is the top parking lot of the Cintas Center, where you can see all of the flashing lights and all of the vehicles from the sheriff's departments, law enforcement, police departments around the region. 500 plus are lined up right now and are leaving the top parking lot of the Cintas Center. Now, I was looking down to see what time the procession started from here at the Cintas Center, and it was exactly 12:30. So it's been 20 minutes, and they are not through the line of cars that will leave. So it will be a very long procession through the streets of Cincinnati to Spring Grove Cemetery. We're giving you a vantage point from the upper parking lot down to the police cars that are filing by right now. You can see sheriff's departments from around the state. There's a police car from Fort Wright, city of Cincinnati, city of Harrison about to pull by. It has been just a tremendous outpouring of support. We also saw police officers from Sharonville, Coleraine Township, Elmwood Place, just to name a few. We also talked to a group of officers who traveled very far to be here today. They are called the Brotherhood of the Fallen. Take a listen.
There's 8 of us out here today. We have the NYPD, Chicago PD, Suffolk County Police, my agency Thornton, which is just north of Denver, and Dallas. You know, it's tragic anytime we lose a brother in blue or a sheriff across the country. We all hurt. We're all in pain, knowing that all they're doing is trying to keep their community safe, and you know, it's just tragic that we now have to suffer for it. And you know, their agency and their family lost a loved one.
I'm sure it means a lot to know that you guys traveled so far to be here.
We hope so. I mean, we truly are here to help support not only the family but also the agency, because they're hurting as well. So being able to see anyone from across the country to show up is important, you know, not only for us, but to show our support for them.
Okay. And that was the lieutenant from Colorado who came all the way to Cincinnati to pay his respects. We want to go live now to Chelsea Sick. Chelsea?
Yeah, we are standing here at Ludlow and Clifton, where we are seeing the first part here. And I'm going to give this a moment of silence here as we do watch as the deputy passes by. This is the very start of the procession that we are seeing here in the Clifton area. Many people out here to just pay their respects to Deputy Henderson and his family, his friends, brothers and sisters in law enforcement who are part of this procession. As you've been hearing, there are a lot of vehicles that we can expect to see here as part of this, but these initial ones are likely family and friends that knew Deputy Henderson very, very well. And when you first look out here, I know Nick, my videographer, is showing you right now the show of support out here at Ludlow and Clifton. And at first glance, you know, it can look similar to a parade, like people are out here with signs and flags. But if you've ever been to one of these in person, this is a very quiet, emotional moment for everyone who stands here and watches this procession go by. Tears every time when you see something like this. You know, they went down this hill here on Clifton, and it's just amazing to see that come down the hill here. And I am right now here. We are right across the street from Station 34, the firehouse. I'm here with Lieutenant Stephen Dunham with the Cincinnati Fire Department. What is your reaction to seeing this? I know this isn't the first time.
I mean, these kind of situations are difficult because we all work very closely with law enforcement. We work with the Sheriff's Department, CPD. We're all part of the public safety family. So, like we've discussed before, I've been through a few of these, and they never get easier. I think the thing I'm trying to appreciate, and that the firefighters appreciate, is the service that he provided to the citizens of Cincinnati and Hamilton County over more than 3 decades. It's our duty and honor to pay respects to him and his family for what has occurred in his passing.
And you know, the scene where this happened is not too far from here. I know that the firefighters at your station, you were not the ones that responded, but people you know did. And
Yes.
Talk about the healing process that seeing this procession really begins for you guys.
Typically, through my experiences, the procession is really the first step in healing. It's the closure process. Even before the procession, we generally talk amongst ourselves and the people that have made runs to try to, offer help, whether it's mental health services, peer review, PEEP, or any other mental health services for people that made the run. But then also we're a large family, so when we see our fellow firefighters or fellow law enforcement officers hurting or having a hard time with this, the best thing we can do is communicate, shared history, shared memories, shared runs, let people know we understand what they're going through, and if they need to talk, that we're here for them.
And you didn't know Deputy Henderson personally, but when we had been talking a little bit earlier, you were talking a lot about his family and what you hope they get out of this moment here. What do you think they're getting out of it? What do you hope they get from it?
Every one of these processions typically is long, many apparatuses, many different departments, and I think what that shows is the respect that all public safety employees, whether it be police or fire, have for fellow officers or fellow firefighters. We understand the difficulties of the job of law enforcement. They are always there to support us. I would just want his family to understand that it's an honor to work with someone that provided more than 3 decades of service to the citizens of Cincinnati and Hamilton County, and we hope that as time goes by, they'll be able to process it and heal from what has happened.
And right now we're seeing Anderson Township Sheriff Deputy Cruisers passing in this procession that was where he was last. And so this, of course, these folks knew him pretty well. And we're hearing, he was a really big personality out in Anderson Township with the sheriff's office. So surely these folks that are passing now are the ones that are really feeling this impact and the impact that he left on them. And, as a first responder, is it hard to see this and not put yourself in the shoes of, Deputy Henderson's family and closest friends, and know that this is something that you guys are risking, every single day?
I mean, over 20 years, we've had situations with firefighter Armstrong, firefighter Gordon. We've had, Officer Kim. So we've had several situations where, this has occurred, and, you have to follow up after that with the families and just understand that these are difficult situations. Honestly, every one of these situations brings back the previous situations, but the ultimate thing that we need to do is just pay honor and respect. I'm sure that, his job was difficult over 30 years. Firefighters have difficult jobs. Law enforcement has difficult jobs, but, our duty is to provide a service to the citizens, and so that's what we sign up for, and that's what we do. But it's sad, and it, definitely is something that we don't like to see, these situations where somebody, either dies in the line of duty or after they've retired. So that is difficult, but we just hope that they can get by.
All right, thank you very much. All right, as we see these Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies pass us, we are going to send this back to you all in the studio for now.
And that was our Chelsea Sick reporting live there as we're beginning to see that procession make its way to Spring Grove. We were saying because of the size of this procession, by the time that the hearse gets there to Spring Grove, we could still possibly see some vehicles in the Cintas Center.
Yeah.
It's only about 4 miles away, but obviously this isn't a normal drive that these cars would be taking to Spring Grove Cemetery. They're going much slower. And so we want to go now to Tyler Madden, who is outside Spring Grove Cemetery. Tyler.
The number of motorcycles.
Kyle, we're seeing this procession move up to Spring Grove Cemetery here, the cross ladders at the entrance of Spring Grove Cemetery. We've just seen that outpouring of support over the last week. Yesterday, starting with the visitation that saw hundreds of people, law enforcement from all across the tri-state coming together to honor the life of Deputy Larry Henderson in those more than 3 decades of service to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. We're going to pause here for a moment. You're seeing just the outpouring of support, this massive procession that started at the Cintas Center, now making its way to Spring Grove Cemetery. But I've talked to a number of people that have called Larry Henderson a very good friend for a number of years and just described him, his larger-than-life, bigger-than-life, just that impact that he had not only on his friends and family, but the law enforcement community, that 3 decades of work with the Sheriff's Office, including time in a number of different areas, also training that next generation of law enforcement, just a number of stories. I talked with somebody with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office who was helping coordinate a group from Central Ohio to come down here, and he had stories about deputies in his office and the impact that Larry Henderson had, training them, teaching them the ropes. And so just that impact transcending not just across Hamilton County and across the tri-state, but really across the region as we're seeing the cars continue to make their way into Spring Grove Cemetery. We're going to send things back to you guys.
Tyler, can you still hear us? Hopefully we could stay with you, because I know you interviewed Jeff for a story this week, but you also spoke with Deputy Henderson's sister, right, as well?
I've been communicating with her throughout the week, and she actually sent me a statement saying, thank you so much for your coverage of one of the greatest men I was ever blessed to be related to and to be friends with. He was a true warrior, and he will be missed endlessly. His integrity, honor, and love for his country, fellow man, and family was extraordinary. So powerful words there from Larry Henderson's sister Jeannie, her friends telling me just how incredibly close the two of them are, and talking with her best friend yesterday at the visitation that we saw here at the cemetery. She was talking about how such a tragedy in the family still dealing with that, but just trying to honor Larry's life and the impact that he had on so many people. That's what I think we saw on full display in the Cintas Center, and what we're seeing just from the outpouring of support here today.
And Tyler, you were out there yesterday at that visitation. Some people may have missed that coverage. What was that scene like? There was a lot of people we saw out there. I know the mood was somber, but what were you hearing from the people that you talked with that made their way to Spring Grove yesterday for that visitation?
Healing was the big word, and I think just showing that outpouring of support that the Henderson family is not alone in a time like this, and just that outpouring of support being hopefully a step in healing and coming together to show them that I am with you was the biggest thing, and just honoring just the impact that he had. Again, everybody that I have talked to over the last week has a uniquely individual story to them about who Larry was and what he meant to them, and just showing that impact that he had on so many people, really honoring that legacy and that impact that's going to live on forever, they were telling me yesterday, guys.
If we could hold the camera right here, can you all talk about the thin blue line flag, Jeff and Jean, just to kind of explain for people who may not be familiar with what that is and what it symbolizes?
A thin blue line, very simply, it represents what it is, the thin blue line that holds the law enforcement community together. It's a memorial flag designed really to represent, holds us together. It's the bond between the community, law enforcement, but it also represents those who have gone before us.
When you look at the flag, the background is black, which is for mourning. And then the blue is the thin blue line compared to the rest of the flag, which, as Jeff said, indicates that there is a thin blue line. That's actually, those of us in the profession like to say, we're the line between the community and those who would wish to harm it. And we're that thin blue line.
And Chief, I know as you're looking at this, we were talking earlier, you were moved by that scene there, the coming together, the American flag, the thin blue line flag, but the ladders from the fire department, because the relationship between the police and the fire department, in your words, what is it?
Well, it's like a sibling rivalry. We joke and poke fun at each other, and I had a brother, fortunate to have had a brother, and we would fight like cats and dogs, but if anybody were to attack either one of us, the other was going to be there. I mean, and to see that, because I also remember, and I wish I could remember the names, the approximated the firefighters in Springdale that were killed at a fire, and those funeral services had police there. The police were directing traffic. We were, it's still, there's that one commonality, is the fact that you face danger every day, and unless someone else has been in that situation, you truly can't understand it. It's just, and so firefighters, military, police, that's the commonality, I think, of that relationship.
Yeah, as Captain said earlier, maybe the firefighters are invited to the birthday parties and you're not, but you are all running toward danger, and you have that commonality for sure.
There are some of those amazing people in the world. If you talk to the police perspective, most of us think that firemen are a little off because they'll go into a burning building.
Yeah.
I won't. I think that's, I know, but they think we're off because we'll go crazy and drive fast to go to someone shooting a gun.
Yeah.
So it takes a special person to do that job. We're very closely connected. I'm going back, I talked a little earlier off camera, I go back to the Madisonville when I was District 2 commander. I had the Sonny's incident where he was murdered. I watched the amazing men, the fire company, they were there, the paramedics working, did everything in the world for Sonny. It was just over a year later Daryl Gordon lost his life in Madisonville, it was the same group of men that were there. So I had to deal with the same people, watch their pain. And the men and women of District 2, we lost a family that we were all at their event. And it was, we lost a family member the same way. We go to the police memorial, they're at our, like Monday's police memorial parade. Fire has one as well. We represent them as well. Like I said, we may fight sibling rivalry back and forth, but we're together. And you're not allowed to pick on one without the other.
We're going to head back out to the Cintas Center right now because I think we're about ready to wrap up our coverage there, and we're going to go back to Megan Mongello one more time. Megan?
Well, Paula and Kyle, I can tell you that we are in the top lot of the Cintas Center, and we have been watching a steady stream of law enforcement vehicles from around the state, from around the region, just go by us with their lights on as a final tribute, a final remembrance for Deputy Henderson. And we are about to see some of the last cars pull out of the parking lot. This procession started at 12:30 exactly, and I want to step out of the way because these behind me are the final vehicles. You can see these are probably family and friends, some out of uniform police officers, support staff that are part of the procession as well, pulling down the drive of the Cintas Center right by the building. And you can see one of the last police cars over there has some of the flashing lights still as they continue on the procession, the final procession to Spring Grove Cemetery. Things got underway here at 9 this morning with the visitation. For about 2 hours, we saw folks stream into the Cintas Center, and then the funeral service started at 11 this morning. It was a very somber morning, really a crowd that kept to themselves, internalizing a lot of their emotions of the day after losing one of their own who has served the community for 33 years. This was the program that everyone was handed as they walked in to the funeral service this morning. And one of the things that struck me was the photo that they chose of Deputy Henderson, a photo I assume was chosen by the family. They wanted to show Larry as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a friend. And they showed him in his regular clothes, not in his uniform. So that is definitely something to take note of. The back of the program also has a photo of him as well. And it says, "Death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal." So a lot of tributes going out, of course, to Deputy Henderson. And as we're looking right now, we can see that last car pull out of the Cintas Center and make its way to the final resting place, which is Spring Grove Cemetery. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah. As you can see behind me here, the vehicles have stopped. Megan just mentioned that the last cruiser has left the Cintas Center. At this point, it would appear that the first vehicles have arrived at Spring Grove Cemetery. Things have slowed down almost to a halt, and there's an eerie quiet right now here on Martin Luther King Drive as the vehicles continue to make their way. I spoke with a man earlier named Giannis. Giannis, you're from Greece. You didn't even know that this was occurring today. You looked it up, saw what was happening, and came outside. What is it like for you who've never, I'm assuming you've never seen anything like this before. What is it like for you to walk out here and see all these people and to see all of these law enforcement vehicles?
Well, you feel proud about that it's a significant ceremony that takes place to honor the man that is deceased and had this lethal accident here in the streets. And also a kind of the vehicles that you see, that there are so many, all the people are some kind of grieving about the situation that is happening now.
You said some of these vehicles are the types that you've only seen in movies before.
True.
And they are all, we're talking, SWAT vehicles and the larger trucks and everything. Seeing this outpouring of support for this fallen deputy, what does that tell you about this community?
Well, it means that you feel safe if you see these vehicles, that they are around, that they are in the service of the people for the protection. So, yes, this is the feeling that I have when I see all these vehicles around here.
It's somber, it's quiet, but it also feels like a tremendous amount of respect is being paid right here.
Of course.
Well, Giannis, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to observing, okay?
You're welcome.
All right. The vehicles continue to move here. This is the corner of Burnett and Martin Luther King Drive. You can see there are people up on a hill trying to get a better vantage point. But so far we've seen vehicles from all over the state of Ohio. There was just a cluster of vehicles from the central Ohio area, Hilliard, Perrysburg. This is South Lebanon right here. And now we're starting to see some Cincinnati police vehicles, the K-9 unit driving past. But again, the fact that they are moving along so slowly now is a pretty good indication that that the first vehicles have arrived at Spring Grove Cemetery, where fallen Deputy Larry Henderson will be laid to rest today. But again, there's just this sort of somber quietness to the streets that's so unfamiliar, and that just shows you the gravity of this moment, and how these people feel coming out to show their support. Morrow Police, Franklin Police, Harveysburg Police. We saw some from Kentucky have made their way here. I haven't seen a lot of out of state, but I would presume we're going to start seeing that. A lot of those vehicles coming by, because there's no doubt that they are here and a part of this. I spoke with a couple of people out here today, and just they stressed the word brotherhood. You can see this, the brotherhood is strong in the law enforcement community. As things are quiet, slow moving, somber, but again, very, very respectful. But we're going to continue to stay out here. For now, we're going to actually send it to Chelsea Sick, who is in Clifton. Chelsea, how is the procession looking from your end?
Yeah, we're here on Ludlow Avenue and Clifton, and we are seeing, of course, we're right after where you are. So we're seeing this procession kind of moving towards Spring Grove Cemetery. And to put this into perspective, we are about 2.5 miles from Spring Grove, and this procession just keeps coming. So this is just to show hundreds of law enforcement officers are showing support, and we're Evendale Police passing now, another deputy vehicle there, and it's just. They don't just bring one cruiser. These agencies that come down and support, there are multiple crews out here showing their support. Laughlin Police now passing by. And we were just talking to a lieutenant with the Cincinnati Fire Department who they're out here. We're just across the street from Station 34. He says this is the start of the healing process for not just those who knew Deputy Henderson, knew his family, his friends, his coworkers, but for all of them. I mean, they're first responders. They're all putting their lives on the line. And this is just the beginning of being able to heal from this tragedy that they're all going through, because when one of them go through it, they all can feel that. So, I mean, as far as we can see up Clifton Avenue here, these cruisers just keep coming. And again, we're about 2 miles from Spring Grove Cemetery, where the beginning of the procession has been there for 10, 15 minutes by now. These cars, Dayton Police just passed. I did talk with the major from Dayton Police yesterday. They knew him from the bomb squad. We know that Deputy Henderson was a part of the bomb squad down here, but that's a pretty close-knit community across the state, across the country. The major Hall that I talked to in Dayton said there aren't a lot of bomb squads across the country, so they get together often for training. And they said that Deputy Henderson was the one that was making sure things were done right. 33 years in law enforcement. He was remembered as a positive guy, someone who was kind of goofy, would joke around, but also took his job very seriously and wanted to make sure things were done right. So that is from Major Hall up in Dayton, who knew him pretty well just from the job. Remember him very fondly. And so when these deputies and these officers get together and are part of this procession, some of them had no idea who he was, had never met him. Others, this means a whole lot. And it's, again, just the beginning of the healing process for these folks. So right now we're seeing Dayton International Airport passing us now. Miami Township Police. Looks like that's from the Dayton area as well. So we're going to send it over to Tyler Madden, who's at Spring Grove Cemetery.
Chelsea, we're continuing to see the procession move through here. Some of the vehicles from law enforcement are starting to park here to begin that ceremony here at the cemetery. But there's also an outpouring of support from people across the tri-state. Rick is joining us here now. Rick, you want to come over? We were chatting a few minutes ago. Thank you for talking with me. Just tell me about why it was so important for you to come out here today.
Show respect. I mean, what these guys go through is a lot, and have something like this happen to a guy who gave 30 years of his life and now he's gone. It's tragic. It's tragic all the way around for everybody involved. Just want people to know that, you know, we appreciate what they do. That's it.
You said this hits home for you too, especially of a number of members of your family that are in law enforcement.
Quite a few cousins retired from Cincinnati, sons involved in it, and I don't know, just show respect, basically. Just let everybody know, let all those people know that we're behind them. You know, they're not out here by themselves, and I think most people are.
What does it mean to you to see this procession moving through? We see police cars from the city of Milford that are moving through, just from law enforcement across the tri-state. What does it mean to you to see just this outpouring of support?
It's amazing how big it is, because I just talked to another guy, and he said just a few minutes ago the procession was just still leaving the Cintas Center. That's a long way. You know, there's a lot of people involved in this, and as there should be. Show some respect, you know.
Rick, I appreciate it. Thank you for talking with me.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So just that continue, just hoping that this is a big step in the healing process. Talking with Larry's sister's best friend yesterday, just saying everybody coming together to rally around the Henderson family. It's just that mission, which she is hoping, and just showing that you're not alone in this and that so many people have your back. So just that being the continuing message that we've been hearing throughout the day. But we'll send it back to you guys as this procession is continuing to move here to Spring Grove Cemetery.
All right, thank you, Tyler. And yes, to give it some perspective, you both have been telling us that it's 4 miles, this procession, but people are still leaving the Cintas as they're arriving at Spring Grove. That's how many people have taken part today.
And we were seeing that the cars are actually going by the entrance to the cemetery now. Kind of from a logistical standpoint, explain, not everyone can get into the cemetery there. Paula, you said about how many cars
I
can
think
fit?
there are about 300 that fit inside the cemetery.
And we know that the procession is much larger than that. So where are they parking, and then they have to walk up, but not everyone may make it to the cemetery, you were saying?
There's 2 parts that I assume that are going on that we can see. They're going to move some of the police cars past it, so they have a designated parking spot. As you get more down towards Spring Grove, down towards the north side, they'll park in the opposite lane of traffic.
Okay.
And then you'll have some of the people that will choose not to participate in this part of the ceremony. They'll go back to work, they'll go back to where, leave the area. And then they've got on Dane Avenue, I'm sure they're going to park on Dane Avenue as well, and then walk back into the cemetery. So, and then they're from the ceremony that they'll have, and then there'll be a smaller one for the family afterwards. So they'll break it off, and they've got then set up that the cars are easier to leave, to disperse, whether it's on 74 or back into the through Spring Grove area, so traffic can get back into its normal flow. So there's a lot of planning into it once we get them here.
Speaking of planning, the precision with which everything has happened today has been incredible. Who was responsible for putting all of this together? And they've done this within a matter of it was 7 days ago today that we lost Deputy Henderson. And so they had a very quick turnaround here to do all of this planning.
Well, from the City of Cincinnati Police Department side, they got an incredibly talented group of people in event planning. That's what they do each and every day. If you think about the events in the City of Cincinnati, they plan for Riverfest, they plan for Taste of Cincinnati, they plan for the Bengals to the Super Bowl, the Reds to the World Series, positive thinking. They plan for any major event in Cincinnati, getting traffic in and out. FC Cincinnati, so they've got incredibly talented captains, lieutenants, sergeants, police officers that they do each and every day. They know traffic, they know logistics, not only over years of experience, but just people that are analytical about it. They use the next generation of technology to figure the best way to get people in and out. And then we have incredible partners with the county, the city engineers, traffic control. So when it comes to putting an event together, the people, you put the best and brightest minds together and say, fix this. And it's nice when you're, for Chief Thigi, to have that at her disposal. we train the best and put the best people in the right spot, and then you just walk away and say, give me the finished product.
And they know what to
they
do.
do that.
It's amazing that you can turn to someone and say, make this work, and they will.
Incredible coordination, and we saw the officer from Denver who came. So some of those departments, they're driving themselves, you said. They're not flying, but the SHIELD might be flying in family members?
Yes, the SHIELD is an organization that's separate from any government, but it's coordinated. Several of the Hamilton County police chiefs are on the board of directors, and they raise funds for family. When something terrible happens, insurance will cover a lot of things, but not today, not tomorrow. That could be weeks from now before that's all settled. When a family still has needs now, they may have relatives in California who would like to come for this ceremony. And how are we going to get? Well, the SHIELD would pay for the airplane fare, housing them in a hotel, food, all the ancillary expenses that many times people don't think of.
Which maybe if people want to contribute to something and donate, that might be a place.
The SHIELD is a place that you can certainly donate to, and it is 501c3.
We want to now take a live look inside Spring Grove Cemetery. You can see members of law enforcement lining up there as we are approaching the graveside ceremony. And Jeff and Jean, I kind of want you guys to walk our viewers at home through what we're going to see. I'm always really moved by the final call. Forgive me if I'm not using the correct verbiage when it comes to describing that. But then also the riderless horse. I know that'll be a part of this, or I think that will be a part of this. Could you guys talk about that and some of the traditions that we're about to witness
There
together?
are a number of ceremonies that will be part of this. And I can remember attending a class where the instructor said ceremonies are the way we consciously recognize change.
Ooh, can you say that again?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Ceremonies are how we consciously recognize change. Think about all of the major events that happen in a lifetime. Weddings, ceremony. Birth, we have baby showers. Graduations, promotions, and funerals.
And popes.
And popes. Talk about ceremony.
Very timely, very timely example.
But ceremonies are a way of recognizing that what was is no longer, and what is will be different. And in every one of those, it is. Because I can recall when I was getting promoted to sergeant, and the safety director said, "Welcome to your first move to being responsible for other people." And I thought, wait a minute, you didn't have to tell me that. I was hoping I had more. But it is, that's now you have all these other people that you're responsible. So that's a big change.
Yes.
And to have the ceremony to recognize there's a change. Obviously, the family is going through a change now, but some of those ceremonies that will be there, and as they're unfolding, and we can explain each one of them, but all of them are borrowed from military.
Right, and we'll probably be silent during some of that because we really just want to take that moment in. But is there one in particular that is really moving to both of you? I'll start with you.
To me personally, it's taps. Taps, I apologize. You'll probably see me cry.
Yep.
I'll admit it now. Taps just rips me to the core because I understand what it means.
I will choke up. And the history of taps is kind of interesting.
Please tell us.
It actually comes from French military, and it was the tune was called tattoo, but what it means is lights out. If you're at the camp, okay, maybe you were in the pub and maybe you were doing this or that or whatever, and when taps is blown, that says stop. Everything stops. Everybody's going to bed. Turn out the lights, stop doing all that. So taps is the announcement of the end of day. Well, when you think about taps being blown at a funeral, day is done, gone the sun, from the hill, from the sea, from the sky, rest in peace, soldier dear, God is nigh. His duties are done. That's what the significance of taps is. The person who was here is no longer here, but they're going and and the belief that there's something after, but your duties here are done, and the rest of us now will pick that up.
Everything is so steeped in tradition. Can you explain the last call, final call? What is the correct term that I should be using?
It's the final call.
Final call.
It's a tradition through law enforcement locally. What we do, it gives a chance to give that officer his last run, to tell him that, or her, that we've got it from here. It tells you that here's your history. We appreciate the work that you've done. We know that you've worked as hard as you can. You've done your duty. You've served. You've protected. You've honored your oath. We know that you want to keep going, that you've done all that you can. We're going to take it from here. Rest in peace. Go be with your Maker. And thank you.
I get goosebumps here.
I was going to say, that's the one that gets me.
It gets me every time when they say, we'll take it from here, because that's usually the last thing, if I'm remembering correctly. And the emotion is so high at that point, you can almost feel it as you're watching. And then when you hear them say, we'll take it from here, and then there's usually a moment of silence. And just as you said, you both get emotional at TAPS. I think for us watching it and kind of leading and guiding the coverage here, that's something that gets us a little emotional as well.
It does, because there's two times that we do it. We do it on your day of retirement, and it's a thank you when you retire from everybody who's around, and everyone saves it. I still have mine. It's in my little archive that I keep for myself. But it's also when we do it as it's your final call, your marching order as you go off. Thank you. It's your last official act as a police officer.
And we will be seeing that today. We're going to see, you touched on it earlier, we're going to be seeing everything, I think, up until the family has their own private ceremony at the graveside.
Correct.
But up until that point, I think everything is going to be covered.
Yes, yeah. And every one of those actions has a meaning, as TAPS does, as Final Call does. And I'm not sure whether they'll have the riderless horse. But that one, I had to go look that one up, but that's really military and usually for high ranking. But the idea being that the horse is leaving the battlefield and the soldier's not around. They're gone. But in terms of leadership, the back-facing boots say he or she's no longer here, but they're still watching us. They're watching over us. And so that's, again, the significance of change. The last call, change. TAPS, change. And when I heard that in that class, I thought, wow, I had never thought about it.
It makes, that is something I will carry with me.
All ceremonies are conscious recognition of change.
I think, I love the pageantry of a ceremony, but I think it also is comforting in that we've been here before. We're doing the same thing again, and we will carry on.
And it's even the folding of the flag and presenting the flag to the family. That is our last gift to you. It's the best way that we can show an appreciation of a nation. It's our symbolism of us in the way it's presented. Again, taking it from military, because we're paramilitary. We can't give you any more valuable gift from a country, our symbol of us.
Speaking of the family, can you talk about the support that they will be receiving in the days coming? You were talking about, because you were closely involved with Officer Kim's family, and you said that they receive so much support, and now they give that support to other people who are going through this unfortunate situation.
As you sit and watch things of the families, how everything's a tragedy, everything works differently through my experience. So I sat and watched, and I'll go back to Danny and Ron.
1997.
Danny's widow, Linda, a phenomenal lady. She became involved in COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors. She was one of my first phone calls after Sonny. What do I do? I need, there's so much support, but as the captain, but I'm looking for something for me to help walk through, so how can I help the family? Because you want to do more. And they make sure she could reach out to know what to expect, what resources they have. So the Concerns of Police Survivors really start helping the families. Little things. How about insurance? What's going to happen with pension? What's going to happen? How do I find the next, how do I cover this bill? How do I notify this federal agency? What about Social Security cards? They have a great support group as people begin into it. You watch as different people involved, they then become part of that family and support group, and it's sad to say they help the next group. You never know, want the next to happen. We're fortunate in this area. We don't have a lot, knock on wood. One is too many more.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Cincinnati was fortunate, 97 to one's too many to 2001 to 15, within the Cincinnati police family. But those resources are there. We have Police Memorial Week every week, or every year. There's a National Police Memorial. COPS is a big part behind that in Washington every year, and Concerns of Police Survivors really help out the families. It's a phenomenal group, and Linda is one of the most amazing women that you ever.
Linda Pope.
Yeah, Linda Pope. And she is an advocate for everyone and stands up, and she's a phone call away. She's
nice.
She's moved on.
She is absolutely amazing. I mean, she just picked that load up.
The strongest
for the family, they don't know what to do, much less how to do it. And so unless you've been through it and had to do those things like contacting, I'm going to need a death certificate in order to get the pension, and I'm going to need and so someone who's been there can say, here's what you can expect. This is what you need to cover this, you need to do this, and here's how you do that. And we're all going to maybe never do this, but even if we do, it's probably only going to be once. And these people have been through it.
Well, it's also a person that'll pick up the phone, call a congressman and yell at them. Call a overambitious, overbearing police captain and say, get your head out of your backside and get this done, which she did. Get this done for them, do this, do that, do that. That's what they become the advocate for you to help that. And you don't want this experience ever to happen to anyone, but it's a close-knit group that, God forbid, no one else ever have to be in, because it's an unknown for the family. They don't know what they don't know. Their life has changed. Their friends' lives have changed. Their mom's lives, their cousins have changed. We've got to support them, and this is an organization that will help them.
What kind of support might they have had at the house in the last week? Is there a 24/7 watch at the home?
Well, the availability of it, and it's kind of a balance of giving the family the space they need, at the same time giving them the support they need, and that's different.
Yes.
One family may need a lot of hand-holding, another family may need to give me some time
to process.
So, each event is reviewed on its own, and But the interesting thing about 24/7, from the moment that Henderson was taken to the coroner's office, there were sheriff's deputies with that body, and it will be there until the body is put in the ground today.
Yeah. I remember we had a soundbite from Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey last Friday evening when she was talking about that, and she said he will never be alone.
Never be alone.
And that was something that just kind of stopped you in your tracks, because that's a week, right, where someone is standing guard 24/7. But it was a beautiful thing that she said, and you could tell she was getting emotional just thinking about that.
There are actually a couple of honor guards, but one of them is the Hamilton County Police Association Honor Guard, because again, small departments can't, but I've been to a number of viewings of officers, even if it wasn't a line of duty death, but they had a career in it. So during the viewing, there are two members of the Honor Guard
that'll be there
on each side of the casket or urn if it was a cremation. And every 15 minutes, I think it is, they will march in formation, come, relieve those two, go back out. And there's training that goes into that, because it's the precision of it is, in my mind, is over, just wow.
Yeah. Nothing happens by chance here.
Nothing happens by chance.
Is there anything different about the ceremony today because it's a sheriff's deputy as opposed to a police officer, or is it one and the same?
Pretty much one the same in my experience.
It's absolutely the
law
same.
Enforcement's law enforcement.
We wear different uniforms. We are the same. And we've talked about it. We've talked about Springdale with from a couple of years ago. It's the same protocol. We treat everything the same. We work together. We lose one, we lose all. It's the same family. We all take the same oath.
And as we said before, the ceremonies are pretty much borrowed from military.
Right.
And so whether you're Army, Air Force, Marine, Navy, Coast Guard, taps is blown, the volley of gunfire, the horse, the flag folding, and all of that it's pretty consistent.
And a lot of it depends on the family. That's first and foremost.
Yeah, and what they want.
What the family wants. And in families, police families are police families. They're most of the time they'll say, what do you want? And I'll go back, unfortunately, been around a long time, I go back to Danny and Ron. Danny's mom, when we brought her to town, the first 12 hours I was assigned to her. We were, I was at a hotel. The chief signed me and said, "You stay with her." And that lady she spent more time comforting me. I was worried about it, and she was like, and spent more time getting me through than her. And it was like the planning for her was like, what do you need us to do? And she was more. I'm like, this lady's.
That's amazing.
And it brings out the strength of people. You look at them, and it's a gift that is given to you.
Yes.
At the worst time.
It was a time, really, this community stood still. If people don't remember, if they're too young, 1997, 2 officers killed in the line of duty the same night, together.
Yeah. And the other, Bennington
Christmas
and Seaford
time,
was the same.
It was such a shock.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. And the thing, again, balancing the desires of the family, they may or may not want this. But his other family, the Blue family, really needs this.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it's really important to those who are still in that job. This means a lot to them in terms of that sympathy and the feeling of connectiveness and all of those things. It means a lot to the surviving officers.
Does it mean a lot because it's a moment for everyone to come together and heal, or what is it about this moment that means so much to people in law enforcement?
Yes, that for sure, and again, the recognition of you're not in this alone. That brotherhood is so important. I can remember when my kids were playing football in high school, and they all said, I'm out there for my teammate.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to review a little bit here, though, because Adam said it, brotherhood and sisterhood now.
Yes,
because that's what I have seen in the years I've been here in the change at these ceremonies.
We were talking earlier. I was in the academy as a recruit trainer in 1974 when the first females came through recruit school that were going to go out on patrol.
Yeah.
They were not welcomed with open arms.
But now,
most of it for fear of the body strength.
Safety. Sure.
I'm wrestling some 6'4", 250-pound guy. I want another guy that big helping me out. But the reality of it is they've done a fine job.
Well, one thing Chief Teresa Thigi told me when she got her job, she said women are really good at de-escalating situations, and we talked a little bit about that. We've seen some recently, but and that's what's changed the force in some ways.
Well, and to look at it and almost humorous, but if you've got that big blowhard guy that wants to take on a cop to prove how tough he is, and the cop that shows up is 5'2", 110 pounds, what's that going to prove?
Yeah, right.
So it kind of takes that whole,
But in any kind of diversity, you need a village.
There are different talents and different skills, and in police work, I can't think of any that you don't need.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's also meant that we lost a female officer a few years ago as well. So they're not immune to any of this.
Absolutely. And again, I go back to the police museum, and when I take people on a tour and I talk about that move in 1974, and the fear of, and I tell them that there's a saying about it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Grit is not gender specific. There are two displays down there, Katie Conway being one of them and Christine Holman being the other. And those ladies, I mean, Katie Conway is shot, got multiple gunshots below her vest. So she just takes her guns out and shoots and kills the guy.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Katie I was the sergeant. I guess I'm bad luck. I was the sergeant working that night. Katie was one of mine, and that changed my entire outlook because she was Katie. She was our Katie.
Yeah.
And the most brave, strongest person I've ever seen in my life that night, and just how she handled everything, and just an amazing lady, unbelievable police officer, and just it was a paradigm shift for me. Yeah. I mean, that story.
I wasn't working, but the people who were tell me that they first couldn't believe because she got on the radio and said calmly, "I've been shot. I need help."
She did. Yeah.
And the officers thought, "What?"
Yeah.
I mean, no crying, no screaming. It's just okay. I dealt with it. Now somebody got to help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did not hear from Chief Thiegy today. Megan said that she came out of the Cintas and she said, "I just can't talk." But again, we did hear from the sheriff, and we'll play more of that in our newscast later because I think that was another act of bravery there to be able to talk today.
She handled that extremely well.
This is a transformational moment for her in her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that for the rest of her life that she will carry. As a command officer, I mean, obviously I carry Sonny with me because of the captain of his, but everyone who has someone within their command, it still carries with them. There are people I grew up with. My dad was an assistant chief. When still the people that were under their command called them. They called me that night to help me. I talk to them still. It carries them. The people are looking to her, and she's got a brand new chief deputy. Chris Ketterman. They're going to look to them. They're going to change. Their entire lives have changed, and it's going to change them in everything.
Along those lines, Tom Wells was the chief in Springdale when Kaya Grant was killed.
Mm-hmm.
When Rick Bly was in Springfield Township, when Tim Unwin was killed, Tom Wells called him immediately, said, "Let's talk. Let me tell you what," and again, I've been there. Let me
help you.
Let me help you.
Correct.
And that really struck me that you're not going to realize some of what's going to happen here. Let me tell you.
Yeah. It's apparent that this changes not only the law enforcement community, but also the command staff as well that are so deeply involved here.
As a chief, I dreaded the thought of ever having an officer killed in the line of duty, because having been in Cincinnati, a lot of them happened while I was there, but I wasn't a chief. But to have been a chief and to lose a member of it, that's just, or even a captain, you're still you're responsible for those people.
I want to let folks at home know that, again, we are waiting for this Graveside service to begin here, and we're seeing the crowd there grow considerably since the last time we were taking a close look at this angle from this vantage point. I was talking to you, Jeff, about something earlier, and I'm struck by it again as we look at these members of law enforcement community standing there waiting for this next ceremony to begin. But we had some reporting earlier this week that one day they had a mental health session for the Hamilton County Sheriff's office, and I think it was the sheriff that said they had about 100 people who showed up. I thought that was an incredible turnout, and I was surprised by that. And you said you were surprised there were not more that showed up there.
It's, again, the law enforcement itself in the last 5-6 years has evolved.
Yes.
We now have mental health units. Cincinnati has 5-6 people assigned to it. The sheriff's department as well. We now have therapy animals now are assigned to the police departments. They bring the therapy dogs to roll calls for the officers to actually interact with dogs. Mental health is something that, again, what officers carry each day what they see. You only can go to so many shootings, so many overdoses, see the bad of humanity. It wears on you. So law enforcement has recognized the need.
There are now peer support groups
peer support that
are trained
to recognize it,
to help other officers deal with things.
So for the sheriff's department now to open that up, because officers are going to have to talk about this, the healing process. Obviously, Larry has touched so many lives.
Yes.
The great stories. Everyone's going to have to learn their grieving process. There's always the 8 steps of grieving. Yeah. Some people will internalize it and just lock it away. That's not healthy. It'll eventually come out. Some people are going to go through 2, 3, 4 months of dealing with it. So having 100 people go in, family, spouses, kids, open it up, gives an avenue to the healing, because there's a lot of questions now. When you walk out the door, you might have your 7-year-old son, the only thing he knows is Officer Larry didn't come home. Mm-hmm. You have to answer that question. Yeah. That does a different kind of strain on you as well, because now, every day a policeman goes out the door, something could happen. We all know that. But now you have the other thing. Now you got to answer the question again. Now you got to explain it. Now you're worrying it. Am I explaining it correctly to my son? So having those sessions now gives you a way to deal with that, to answer it so it doesn't become something more. Again, law enforcement's evolving. I commend the command staff and the sheriff for seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing.
And for many, many years, there was this mystique about law enforcement that to show those emotions was weakness. Mm-hmm. Actually, as Jeff said, it's there. You can either deal with it or not, but bottling it up is not a good idea. No. And the number of police officers that are involved in situations before we had the availability of psychologists. My first was Walt Lippert, Dr. Lippert, super individual. We actually became good friends. But before that was available, the officers had to deal with it on their own, and many of them left the job.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Don't you think we've learned so much about counseling just in terms of every profession, military, nurses, trauma surgeons?
No question.
We used to think that you were weak to seek counseling.
Yeah, and I think the biggest move in that evolution is the acceptance that that's necessary.
We can't do any of this.
That it's okay to not be okay, right?
It's okay to not be okay.
I'm sure a lot
exactly.
of the members of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office are feeling that right now. Another form of support, and I'm pointing at the program here because it's in front of me, was the rabbi that we heard from today. And you were saying that he's actually a paid member of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, and it's a paid position that was new under Sheriff McGuffey, correct?
She brought him on. Yes, he was originally with us. Part of our group with us. Excuse me. I'm not with Cincinnati anymore. I'm retired, but I'll bleed Cincinnati blue. He was with us part of our chaplain group, and he moved over with the sheriff's department. She helped create as part of that wellness group as well. He is one of the most dedicated people that you will meet. Loves law enforcement, works within his faith. He is very supportive of law enforcement. He's always there.
You could feel it.
Oh, he is one. I did joke off camera. He is the one who called me and told me that I was going to have a second child.
Yes, you did tell us that.
He did.
Well, speaking of him, let's get a little soundbite from earlier in this service.
This job is not for everyone. It takes a very special person to say yes. Despite all of that, I still want to help others. I want to ensure the citizens can sleep at night without worrying about the evil that lurks out there. Those are the people I ask you to support loudly and often. To Larry's family, there are no words. You had Larry up close every day. You knew his laugh, his quirks, his strength, and his love. Thank you for sharing him with all of us. Thank you for the sacrifice you made every time he walked out the door. You never knew if that would be the day you'd get the call. Sadly, that day came last Friday. But know this, you are and always will be part of our family at the Sheriff's Office. We are here for you, We uplift you in prayer, we surround you with love, and we will forever be grateful. To those who have passed before Larry, and who will no doubt greet him in heaven, be ready. Larry brings his sense of humor, his heart, and surely a few tricks up his sleeve. Heaven has gained an angel, a faithful servant, and a fierce protector. And finally, Larry, we had some good times. I'll always be grateful for those memories. If I ever wronged you in word or deed, or in failing to say or do something, I ask for your forgiveness. You are an amazing human being, a great friend, and a strong protector. You will be deeply missed. I know you're watching over us now. Rest easy, brother. We have it from here. Godspeed.
Every single speaker was just like they met the moment so well. Each of them had something different to offer, and Rabbi Mendy was just so calm. And you were saying that oftentimes he will just ride with the deputies and get to know them, and then they end up sharing so much with him because they think of him as just a friend. But he's a really good listening ear to all of them.
He is phenomenal. Going back to the Cincinnati days, you would show up to the district, he would be there, and also he would say, "Do you mind if I ride?" And the guys would fight basically for let him ride with me.
That's how you know you're good at your job, when they're fighting.
He becomes a confidant. His phone number's still in my phone.
Wow.
You know, I can call him anytime I want, and it's not about talking about problems. It's talking just off the wall stuff. We can talk politics. If something happens in the world, you know, can you explain this to me? And he'll give me a perspective about something. So it doesn't matter what it's about. He's a genuinely very good man, and in proper fairness, Father Angie's the same way.
Yeah.
You know, they're part of a great group of the chaplains, the program within the police departments, all across the county. They're there, and they're not just for the police. They help us in so many ways. If there's a tragic incident involving, whether it's a car crash or a death, they'll go with us to sit with the family. If there's something, something unusual, they'll be with us just to watch us, but also to go help the family. And then there's so many resources they have outside of law enforcement that they can make a phone call and get community resources in to help victims of crime. Yeah. And then it takes so much away from us that it's such a great partnership that was developed, the last 10, 25 years ago, actually under he's out of the program, he's kind of doing things with Reverend Mark Pruden. I don't know if you remember Reverend Mark Pruden.
Yeah.
He's with
he unfortunately passed away, but Mark was like unbelievable, the officers that would turn to him. I mean, he just connected with police officers like nothing I've ever seen.
Ran marathons.
You were talking about the counseling that everyone will need, and it could be months from now. Mm-hmm. And Chief, as the former chief at UC, I'm thinking there's going to be some grief counseling at UC too, because this happened on campus.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of the president of the university who had to go out and speak during what should have just been a joyous time.
Yes. There's no question that the effect of this situation with the death of a law enforcement officer, because they're such a integral part of the community. And you could see, I mean, we got 4 miles of cars here, but the community members that are there that came and said, I just have to be here, I just have to show and the guy with the sign that said, I mean, all of that says how widespread the effect of that. Part of it because Larry Henderson being who he was, and part of it simply because of what he represented.
And it sounds like he was deeply involved. We're actually going to go back to Spring Grove Cemetery because we believe this part of the ceremony is beginning. So we're going to be quiet and let you take this moment in now. It appears there that our picture of the graveside service has frozen. That is technology. It's live TV. We're going to work to get it back just as soon as possible. But something that you may have noticed there, we saw some Marines that were standing at the front of the cemetery, and you said that was a tribute. We believe we have the signal back, so let's dip in back to this ceremony here.
Not.
All right, so not fully back. You know, those live machines work off cell service. There's obviously a lot of people in that area right now, so cell service is probably a little bit hard to come by. I'm seeing off to my right that it may be back, so let's dip in again.
Deputy Henderson. Hamilton County to Deputy Henderson. No response for Deputy Henderson, National 29. This is the last call to Deputy Larry Ray Henderson. Larry began his well-documented life of service when he joined the United States Marine Corps at the age of 18 and served his country for 4 years from 1985 to 1989. He joined the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department in 1991 as a correctional officer and then volunteered for the Sheriff's Audit Department. Over the next 34 years, he went above and beyond to serve his community and coworkers with training and specialized duties. In 1997, he moved to Road Patrol and served as an instructor and trainer in the academy and an in-service courses. Larry also served as a member and leader of the Nazi, air officer, SWAT team member, and a member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. In his 24 years of active service, he was the longest serving member of the Sheriff's Highway Division Unit, or the Bomb Team. Retiring in December 2024, Larry became a special deputy in the corrections community at the University of Cincinnati and Mercy Anderson Hospital. He and his wife further dedicated themselves to service by foster children. While this remarkable occurrence is for their hearts to society's most vulnerable citizens, protecting them from abuse and abandonment. On Friday, May 2nd, 2025, Larry was working at the Sheriff's Control Office, listening to pedestrians and ensuring that the graduates and their families were safely at the ceremony at the University of Cincinnati. Larry's life of service and sacrifice came to a sudden and tragic end due to a senseless and intentional act on the law enforcement community. By inadvertently replacing another, Larry died a hero, and he will be forever missed by us all. Trustee Deputy Henderson will take it from here. Larry Hamilton County Communication, May 9, 2025, at 1407.
Nice muffler you got there.
And so that concludes the public memorial services for Deputy Larry Henderson. What we believe is going to happen now is that the family will have a private moment to say goodbye to Deputy Henderson, which I think is really important because not only did they lose a husband, a brother, a son, a father, a friend, probably has a lot of close friends as we heard from people here today, but then they had to grieve publicly for the last 7 days, and so many people wanting to, understandably so, learn more about Deputy Henderson. So they've been grieving, but really in the public eye. So they haven't had that moment intimately to say goodbye. And
Exactly.
so now that this service is over, they will get that moment privately to say their final words to Deputy
We
Henderson.
saw all that was expected, the last call, the gun salute, taps, the flyover, bagpipes. Gentlemen, would you like a final word?
Well, I'm surprised I got through without more choking up.
It's okay. You
But
both said
from
taps.
everything that we've heard from the speakers about Deputy Henderson, I think that's something that he would have wanted because they said, he was the first person to crack a joke and he wasn't afraid to laugh at himself. I remember when his supervisor was kind of making fun of that he had gained some weight over the years, and he said, it's okay to laugh because Larry would laugh about that, So I think that's what he would want.
I thank you for the coverage of it. And I just have everyone out there please keep the police officer and his family in your prayers.
One thing the rabbi said is maybe a takeaway today in our grief is everyone do a nice thing for someone else.
Yeah, I like that. That was, in tribute to Deputy Henderson, be like Deputy Henderson. Do something nice.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I want to mention too one more thing. The family left it up to the officer in command to say everything that needed to be said. The sheriff spoke, which I think we are going to hear perhaps from her one more time before we leave. But in terms of, sometimes at these ceremonies we see family members or friends speak, they left it all up to the officer in command, which put a lot of pressure on him. And he said, I'm going to talk about what I know about him, but what also I've learned this week. So he had to take all that in from family and friends and present it. I think he did a great job.
He did amazing.
Yeah.
And I think something that I wrote down in my notes, because it was one of the first things that he said, and he was very intentional about doing this, he didn't mention another person's name.
Yes.
He said the only name that you're going to hear me say today will be that of Deputy Larry Henderson. And I thought that was so perfect for this moment. Not only, there were other names that he could have mentioned as he was just telling stories about people within their division within the sheriff's office, but he did not mention another person's name outside of Deputy Henderson. And he said that was intentional, and he said that off the top. And that was something that I instantly wrote down. Because it was very unique. And I don't know that I've ever seen a eulogy where no other person's name, even when he was telling a biblical story, he was intentional but not saying
Didn't even mention
You're right. The big one, right? He was just so
Deputy
profound
Henderson's
in that.
day.
It was the only name.
This is his day.
Are we going to be able to hear from Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey? We're waiting to see, which is unexpected. We didn't know that she would be making a statement again so soon, but we certainly want to get that to everybody if they do. Again, I would like to thank the family because they didn't have to let us into the Cintas Center. I want the audience to understand we kind of held back as much as there was a pool camera there so that we didn't have lots of media, and we all shared. You talked about that brotherhood and sisterhood and the firefighters versus the officers. We could be like that in the media, but we let one camera in there and we all shared so that we didn't disrupt anything. We held back at the gravesite. You didn't even see the family today, and I think that was perfectly fine. We just took it all in as a grieving community together.
You didn't need to have a close-up of anything that was happening out there at the Spring Grove Cemetery to feel the emotion. And I think that speaks to the magnitude of the day, is that even though we weren't super, super close with the camera, we could hear everything. And in just a moment, we are going to go to Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey, who is about to speak. I can see her off camera getting ready to walk over. She's talking to another member of law enforcement. But while she is doing that, something we weren't able to talk about was the Marines that we saw standing watch as the casket made its way into Spring Grove Cemetery. Do either of you want to speak to that?
I've been to a number of FOP ceremonies for retired police officers. And if they were retired military and that unit was notified, like the Marines or even the Air Force, they will send a contingent to have a presence at the ceremonies. And I'm sure that's because Henderson was a former Marine, that the Marines were notified, and so they sent a contingent to give their final farewell.
As you said, always Marine, a former Marine, never an ex-Marine.
No ex-Marines, they're former
She's
Marines.
going to speak
in
now. So
the Gulf War, and I believe
Let's-
if we can
yeah.
take a picture, Sheriff McGuffey is getting a microphone on as she is about to speak. So let's listen in now.
This afternoon, we laid to rest a courageous man, a man who donned the uniform from the time he became an adult, a man who gave his life for this country, a man who gave his life to walk the road of justice. And he walked it proud, and now we are lifting him higher, and he is lifted higher. And I will tell you that Larry Ray Henderson, his courage knew no bounds. He was courageous. He was honored. He was a deputy that all deputies aspire to be. A 33-year career cut short, and we all mourn. We all mourn that for Larry, and it's hard to let go of Larry. It's very hard to let go. We all knew him very well. Larry received the Medal of Valor during his career as he was in a very, very dangerous situation and held his ground until we could get back up there for him. And that's the man Larry was.
This show of support, Sheriff, so impressive. Your thoughts?
Yes, what you've witnessed here today is the legacy and the strength of law enforcement. Law enforcement from around the region, from around this great nation. These are the men and women who pledged their lives so that all of us can live in peace. And what you saw, the flyover, the ceremony of folding the flag, the caisson, carrying Larry, draped in the American flag, as only he would want. And the men and women who stand and perform the 21-gun salute. Those are historic ceremonies that are meant to honor Larry's life. And we are so honored to witness them.
Sheriff, the flag that was on his coffin that was folded up and given to his family, what was sent to his family?
When I presented the flag to his family, I noted that it was on the behalf of a grateful nation and the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department that I present that flag for Larry's courageous career. Larry will live in our hearts. He'll never be gone from us. And we will not walk alone.
Sheriff, this has been a beautiful two-day ceremony, Is there a message you want to convey to Greater Cincinnati and beyond?
I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of Cincinnati and beyond this region, and to people all over the nation that have reached out. My heartfelt gratitude to all of you for the things that you've said, the text messages, the things that you have embraced your friends and helped people grieve, because we're all grieving together. Those of you that lined the route, you were all noticed and you were all appreciated.
Your deputies were grieving as well. How do you move forward?
We've pledged an oath for the duty and to walk the path of justice. And every one of us knows that if one of us goes down, there will be someone to stand in their place, and that person will take up the mantle, and so on, and so on, and so on.
What goes through your mind when you're in this procession and you see the show of support, whether it's people who knew Deputy Henderson and people who didn't know Deputy Henderson? What are you thinking in that moment?
What I'm thinking when I see those people lined on the procession route, the ones that were there today, yesterday, the people that came here for the ceremony, uniformed and not, is the fact that we are so blessed. We are so blessed to live in this region, to live among people who are so incredible and who use their time and efforts to pay tribute to someone who has given so much to them. I think we are all so very blessed, and I know that everyone is mourning someone. I understand that. And I have to say that Cincinnati, Hamilton County is a place of extraordinary people. Extraordinary. And it shows.
Sheriff, I talked with somebody in the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and they knew Larry and talked about the impact that he had on deputies there. Just speak to that. We saw the support from all across the tri-state, just the impact, yeah, not just here, but across the region.
Oh, absolutely, because Larry worked in a specialized unit. He was a bomb tech. And, you know, there aren't that many, people that want to raise their hand and say, hey, I'll volunteer to defuse bombs. And Larry did that. And when you're in that specialized unit, you have to connect. You have to connect across the region because you never know how dangerous it's going to be, how many people you're going to need. And they all trained together. All of them did. And again, it's an example of Larry's courage and how it reached beyond Hamilton County, beyond the state of Ohio. And now he's lifted higher.
Everybody good? Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
And that was just Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey speaking to reporters after what you can only describe as an extremely emotional day for her. So our thanks to her for having the composure and the time to come and speak with us to give us a little bit more insight. Something that she said that I wrote down and that I think really perfectly sums up everything that we've heard today was she was describing Deputy Henderson, and she said he was the deputy that all deputies aspire to be.
Yeah, she said it all very well, and she said we all grieve today together. I want to thank everyone for joining us as we do all grieve as a community and also celebrate a life together as a community. We want to thank our two guests today. Thank you so much, Jeff Butler and Jean Ferrara, all our Local 12 reporters for their help in bringing you today's events.
Yeah, but before we go, one more final tribute to Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson.
He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me.
Here, we are united in grief as we reflect the life and service of Deputy Larry Henderson. Each of us knowing in our hearts that we will never walk alone.
There is no doubt that on May 2nd, 2025, Larry took the place of another officer. He may have taken that place for me, or you, or anyone in this room.
We ask your blessing upon each of us this day. Amen. We now take our brother Larry to his place of rest.